You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I am Iron Man.
This is a tasty burger.
Welcome to the InSession Film Podcast.
Welcome to part 2 of our 13th annual InSession Film Awards show. This is episode 670 for January 12, 2025, and I'm Jaded Duran.
And I'm Brennan Cassidy.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. It's our top 10 movies of 2025. It is the best movies of the year. We have our list locked and loaded. They
Locked
do
and
not
loaded.
ever
No, they're not.
change.
No, they're not.
They're changing last minute as we speak.
Mine changed 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. Mine
I'm not even kidding.
have been changing a lot over the last few days for sure. Joining us once again, the great Dave Giannini. Dave, are you ready?
Yeah, I spent most of my workday moving lists around on Letterboxd and just eventually throwing up my hands and giving up and figuring out a top 10 because there's so many
how it goes.
options.
Yeah.
So it's been tough, but you know, if that's my biggest problem, I guess that's pretty good.
I think it's still a pretty good problem to have. I don't know about you guys, but when I look at my list for really any movie-related thing, whether it be my favorite directors, movies in a given year, whatever, I enjoy doing that.
Oh, yeah.
I weirdly have fun making lists like that, even though I know it's never absolute. So like the fact that I stress myself out over it too much is kind of why I enjoy it.
It's both fun and stressful at the same time. Like,
we just
I
love
don't know.
pain.
It's not as if I don't think, I mean, no offense, JD. I don't know that anyone's going to come back to this podcast in 50 years and be like, what did Dave think was the number 3 movie of 2025 and then judge me for it? But maybe, you know, so I'm probably putting too much pressure on the process.
Or come back a few years later thinking like, wait a minute, Dave had this at number 3. Now it's at number 6. What gives?
Yeah, I do get questions like that on Letterboxd. Like I'll rewatch a movie and then someone will be like, it went down a half star. And I'm like, man, will you chill?
It's like, I don't
it did. It's okay. It went from 4.5 to 4. It's still really good. It's okay.
Sometimes people don't understand how film criticism works.
Yeah, it does change over time.
Yeah.
Changes over time. I mean, that's the beauty of these lists is that they're time capsules. This is how we feel about now. So I guess to your analogy there, Dave, or your example, I mean, that's the fun thing of going back to listen to these years later is that it's just a time capsule episode.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
the list will change.
Now Brendan loves Brooklyn. I mean, like, you know, we grow.
Isn't
we
that
change,
exciting?
We get better.
Who would have thought?
I'm dead serious. I do need to give that a revisit because I know I'm in a very different headspace and I can probably react to that movie much more favorably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you would love it a lot more now.
I probably would.
100%.
I honestly think I would. Yeah. I was a much more cynical individual 10 years ago.
That's right.
But now he's married. He's got a kid on the way.
Wife's been a good influence. He's ready.
I don't even know what the word cynicism means anymore.
Exactly.
Just listen to me for the next couple hours. You'll find out.
You'll educate me. I love
Yes, right.
All right. Before we get into it, I just want to reiterate part 1 of this episode. It is available right now. It is nearly 4 hours. It was a great time, though. Really fun. It was, for what it's worth, less than what the Golden Globes were last night in terms of length. So we at least beat the Globes.
That's true. I didn't think about
and
that.
our awards were better. So, you know.
And our awards were so much better. Exactly. So go and check that out. Episode 670, part 1, the InSession Film Awards.
We actually talked about original score and it didn't get cut to a commercial.
Exactly.
break.
Not cut out of the broadcast.
I cannot talk about that. I'm going to get so angry. I've been angry in group chats all day about best song and about score. Just no.
If anything, we did the opposite. We had our official categories, and then we added on a whole bunch of others to the broadcast.
There's a lot of music-related ones.
Yeah. So, you know, that's how we do it. It's a lot of fun. Look, we're celebrating an entire year's worth of movies. Of course, it's going to be long.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it's fun. It's always enjoyable. Go and check it out. We are now here to talk about Best Picture, if you will, as we get into our top 10 movies of 2025. However, as we do each and every year, before we get to our list, let's talk about the year as a whole and what we thought about 2025 in film. Were there any themes that arose for you all? We talked about it a little bit in part
there is
one.
a theme.
I thought there were quite a few trends in 2025, but let's talk about that first. Dave, what did you think about the year in film?
Yeah, great year. I really enjoyed 2025 in the theater and at home, depending on where you watched your movies. Hopefully in the theater, like Stellan Skarsgård told us last night, to experience that, which was probably my favorite moment of the whole award show. There's two themes for me this year. One is this is absolutely the year of the international film. Or you could just say the year of neon, I guess, if you want, because they bought every international film that wasn't bolted down. So
they're the Alabama of.
That's right. We all the 5-star recruits. They're all coming here.
Bought them all.
That's right. And even some that weren't any good, like Keeper, and like it's
Exactly.
they're just like we're gonna play the numbers game.
Exactly.
We're gonna get everything. So a lot of great international film. It would not surprise me if there were at least 3 or 4 in each of our top 10s that were not American films. And I don't know about you all, but that's probably the first time that's happened for me in these kind of numbers. Usually I have 1 or 2 in my top 10, but very rarely do I have this many. And the other theme I can think of is directors as auteurs, as creators, making their passion projects. You've got Coogler, you've got Guillermo del Toro, you've got PTA, all in many ways given kind of a blank check to do what they finally wanted to do for so many years. I know PTA's talked about that One Battle After Another has been gestating for him for like 10 or 12 years. GDT has been making Frankenstein his whole career, and he finally got to actually make Frankenstein, so those are the two big themes for me. And the other thing is, if you, just like last year, actually, if you branch out a little bit and don't just focus on the awards favorites, there's a lot of great stuff to be found. There's a lot of great horror this year, even outside of a movie like Sinners. There were a lot of great documentaries. There were a lot of great, like, smaller films out there. If you just took some time to go and look, and if you do, there's a lot to be rewarded by. Even if I don't believe this, but if you believe that this year was a bad year for the awards movies or the big movies, the big budget, whatever, if you believe that, watch more movies. Try different things, look at things from a new perspective. And
there's stuff out there outside of just that.
That's the glory of the art form, right? It's not just the Marvel movies. It's not just the ones by the big directors. It's, there's a lot out there to see. And I urge you to, go look online and find a movie you've never seen that just sounds kind of good, and don't read anything else about it, and just watch it. And just experience it, because a lot of my favorite movie going experiences this year were big surprises. So some of them were not surprises, but many of them were. And that was like a really fun experience to have. So don't give up when the first 3 or 4 movies that you see that you wanted to like, you don't like. Try more, or maybe, I don't know, don't watch movies. Go somewhere else. Stop complaining. Do something you like.
There are a lot of other things to do.
If there is a moral for 2025 as far as the year of movies is concerned, it's what Dave just said. Either don't give up or just don't watch movies. I feel like that's the theme right there.
And I don't know if this is true. You guys can probably tell me, and this is the last thing I'll bring up. I don't know if I'm just getting older and more easily annoyed online, but it feels like, especially right around now, actually, the quote unquote discourse and the, movies as sports has gotten really gross. Like, there was the whole thing today with One Battle After Another, and people hating Timothée Chalamet because he's taking awards from Michael B. Jordan. And it's just like, I went online for like an hour today, and I was like, oh, I kind of want to go back to work. I want to go back to work. This is terrible.
Yeah, I was just too busy editing the show from last night. I'm glad that I missed this, because I would have lost a gasket.
I was too busy not caring about it.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It feels like it's getting worse, and I feel like we're getting more insular, and that probably has something to do with where we are as a country and a world and all that good stuff. But it's like, I looked at that today and I was like,
Dave, are you saying we shouldn't treat art as sports? Is that what you're saying? I think that's what you're saying.
What I'm saying is, my opinion matters. No, I'm just kidding. No, this is this is the great thing about the art form. There are at least 25 to 30 movies this year that were vying for my top 10. And if one of them wins the Oscar and the other one doesn't, I don't care. That's great. Let's celebrate the movies. And even if it's a movie I don't like, we talked about the fact that like I didn't connect with Hamnet, but I'm not gonna, break windows in my home because Hamnet wins Best Picture. Like it's just like, just relax and enjoy the show. Like it doesn't take away your experience of watching these other movies that you loved. And if it's gonna upset you that much, turn off the TV and go rewatch those movies that you loved from this year. Most of them are already available online. So go do that. And be healthy.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but if you were to just quickly quiz me and say, what movie won Best Picture 3 or 4 years ago? I don't know. I have to think about it. And it might even have to research it, which kind of goes hand in hand with what you're saying there.
It was La La Land, right? That's
yep.
Yeah. No.
I will never forget that.
Something happened with that?
Apparently. Yeah.
I think so.
Apparently there's a rivalry with that movie that makes all the sense in the world. But with what you're saying there, Dave, I think it's going to make our jobs as film critics even more important going forward, to bring a new perspective, and hopefully people will listen to that perspective in an open-minded way. And I think that projection of open-mindedness when it comes to artistic critiquing is going to be more important going forward. As far as the year is concerned, 2025, I agree with everything that you said, Dave. I don't really have much to add to it, even with regard to some of the themes that you noticed with regard to international cinema. This was a great year for that. There's another particular theme that I know JD will talk about with regard to how many films this year depicted
Was it dead babies?
Dead babies. Yeah, the dead baby movie.
The theme of this year is? Good God.
I'll let JD speak to that because I know he's going to have thoughts on it. But what I love about this year, and this is what's kind of interesting about it, I do think it's a very good year, but for me, it took a while to get there. There was a point maybe around August or September where I thought this year is in trouble. This year has a lot of work. The summer was pretty mediocre. I think that's something a lot of people might agree on, is that it wasn't as good of a summer season when compared to other years. But the year certainly made up for itself when we got to the back half, when we got to September through the end of the year, I think.
So Jurassic World, not in your
I'm sick of those movies. I'm so sick of those movies. You have no idea.
I just love poking him, JD. I just
forgot that even came out this year. Thanks, Dave.
You wanted
it wasn't the worst one,
baby.
No, it wasn't the worst. There were way worse. I mean, if anything, Jurassic World maybe represents the biggest problem with the summer season this year, is that so much of it was forgettable. Which might even be worse. But what was also interesting for me about 2025 is that I look back at my best of list for 2024, and I will say the two films I had topping my list last year, they still haven't changed. I still feel pretty confident in saying Furiosa, Mad Max Saga, and All We Imagine Is Light were my two favorites of that year. And if, let's say, hypothetically speaking, they came out this year, I would probably still put them at number 1 and number 2 respectively. But that's also because I acknowledge that we've had time to sit with those films, that we haven't had the luxury of sitting with 2025 films for at least a year or so. So that conversation could ultimately change. But what's interesting is that I think 2025 was maybe one of the more bountiful years as far as the plethora of movies that could qualify as being among the best of the year. I think it was what you just said earlier, Dave, that you were looking at like your top 30 or something like that. If any one of them were to win Best Picture, you'd be like, okay, that's fine. Still a good movie. And I'm looking at my top 50, and most of these movies I had a lot of enjoyment with. So there's a really great spread that I think 2025 had to offer. It may not have the top heaviness of some previous years, but I like that we had a lot of versatility with what greatness could ultimately look like when it comes to films. And they all offered very different forms of greatness, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, there is no Nosferatu this year. That's true. You're absolutely right.
2025 was interesting for me because a lot of my experience, unfortunately, I can't live my life like Dave. I wish that I could go back to that in some ways, but I don't have the luxury to watch 250 new movies a year. I think in totality, it was.
You should not do this. Don't do this.
That was my life before having kids. I was watching 400, 500 movies a year.
Yep.
But with 2 young children running around, and every now and then I try to do this thing called exercise, which is hard to come by.
Well, and then
That's when I watch most of my movies. Hop on the treadmill, put it on.
Yeah.
So you're just watching The Long Walk over and over again.
Exactly.
Nice.
Just
Nice.
participating in the long
Nice.
walk.
Yep.
So I can't watch 250 new movies a year, and that means that there are a lot of movies that I just have to skip.
Yeah.
And I put my attention toward movies that I think will reward me in some way, whether it be a review that we're trying to do here on the show. Is it going to be something that accumulates to the InSession Film Awards? Whatever the case may be. If a film is getting absolutely bombarded and we're not doing it for a review, such as Minecraft earlier this year, for example, didn't care to watch that film for the longest time. Now, Sam eventually wanted to go see it, so that's how I ended up watching that movie. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have seen it. So I say that to say, if you go and look at my Letterboxd, it's not full of 1 and 2 star reviews, because the films that would typically warrant that, I'm just not watching those movies.
Yeah.
Coward.
I know. I'm sorry.
No, it's a better way to live. This is a good decision.
Once you see something like The Monkey, you have to be very cautious.
Yeah. Well, and I guess that gets to my next point, is that I had a very similar experience to Brendan, in the sense that even though that is the structure of my film appetite, I was still logging way more than usual a lot of 1 and 2 star movies, even probably close to a dozen half-star movies, it felt like. Now, that might be a bit of an exaggeration, but that's certainly what it felt like. There were some great surprises throughout the summer, and maybe that is the biggest disparity between Brendan and I. I loved Thunderbolts, as we noted in part 1. That was my win for best surprise movie of the year. Deeply love that. I think that's top tier MCU. Really liked James Gunn's Superman movie. I am not a huge Superman guy. I've been reserved regarding James Gunn's work in DC to this point. That was a really fun surprise. Like that a lot. Jurassic World was okay. And there were a few others that I think were mindlessly enjoyable. But for the most part, I was logging a lot of 1, 2 stars. Minecraft got that patented half-star review for me. That might have been the worst thing that I saw this year, aside from The Monkey. Terribly did not like that a lot. So when going into the fall season, once September got here, like Brennan, I was a little reserved. I was a little nervous as to what 2025 was going to be, because typically, while there's always mixed results given what the first half of the year, or especially the first third of the year, tends to give you, I was certainly lower than most years at that point. And then the fall comes, and it was an avalanche of incredible stuff. And that's when we're getting not just the American awards releases, but so many of those great international releases that we got this year. It was just
it wild
back
this
to back
year
to back.
that like the reactions at festivals were pretty tepid for a lot of these movies. Like, kind of like, it's okay, it's not great. And I was like, what are you talking about?
That's a good
Once
point.
I finally got to see it.
That maybe helped in a little bit,
maybe.
because then you're not clouded by that, that hype narrative for a lot of these movies. So it allows us to go in with a more clear, open mind.
Yeah. And I was excited for, what the fall was going to bring. You had heard some great things. I loved that Jafar Panahi won out at Cannes. That was very exciting.
For sure.
Sentiment of Value was getting a lot of great buzz, and a few others. And we were also going to get Kelly Reichardt. I knew that going into the fall season. We were going to get a new Chloe Zhao going into the fall season. We were going to get Marty Supreme in December at Christmas time. So there were a lot of films to look forward to, but given where the year was for me at that time, I wasn't sure. But once we got to October, it was just a feast, an absolute feast. It felt like back to back to back to back.
It got stupid. We use that word a lot. It got
ridiculous.
stupid.
Yeah. And now I sit here at the end of the year and I am pretty overwhelmed by how great I think this year was on the whole. And it's very different than last year. I was quite the champion for 2024, and I still am in a lot of ways. Last year at this time, I argued that 2024 was going to go down as an all-timer. I think it was a legendary year for cinema, all-time stuff. However, especially once people started talking about 2025, I wanted to go back to look at that list, and what I realized, and I believe Brendan and I talked about this, I can't remember if we did it on air or off air, but 2024 was, I still hold to that, I think an all-time year for cinema, but it was heralded, it was held up by a lot of small, under-the-radar gems, international movies, and films that just weren't necessarily all over award season. Some of them were, but it was a year full of great movies that you kind of had to seek out. And it wasn't a great year for mainstream cinema comparatively. And I could understand why that would go under the radar, because it's just a lot of unseen material. And so I do think it'll take time for 2024 to catch up to that level of discourse. Whereas with this year, you have movies like One Battle After Another and Sinners and Marty Supreme that were these big movies, these big movies that hit, that a lot of people loved.
And that did well at the box office too.
That did well at the box office.
That was exciting to see. Yeah,
absolutely. So it felt like there was more of a mix between great international cinema, again, some of those, smaller hidden gems, but also what the mainstream studios offered to us.
It was more rounded. It felt like it gave us a little bit of everything that we like to see.
Absolutely. Netflix with a couple of big hits on their side of things as well.
This was the movie release buffet of a year.
We're talking about Jay Kelly, right? That's the big
100%.
That's the big,
which I liked way more than Dave. Let's just put it that way.
Well, everyone knew that was going to happen. Like that. He's just, he's not my guy.
This is what cynicism means. I get it.
Yeah.
Taste, but even, I think is the word you're searching for.
Fair enough.
But even something like K-pop Demon Hunters, which I don't think will crack any of our top 10s, but was this huge sensation.
Absolutely.
In terms of global...
Imagine if they put it in theaters to begin with.
They should have. I mean, you could make the argument. I know Avatar Fire and Ash is on its way to making $2 billion, but just in terms of cultural impact, I'm not sure if there was a more impactful movie this year than K-pop Demon Hunters.
There's an argument to be made. Yeah.
Certainly in the conversation. Absolutely. So Netflix certainly had a big role this year as well in terms of mainstream cinema. So it just felt a little bit more well-rounded, I guess, than last year, even though last year, I still think there's an argument to be made was the deeper year, maybe the better year overall. This year, though, like the top 30, 40, 50 movies of 2025, I think, makes an argument for, any year of the last 10, 15 years for sure.
Yeah, I would say this year, there's more movies in the conversation this year. Last year, but the last year, the movies that were really good, like the highs are really high last year, where it's a little more graded.
And I don't want to use the term top heavy to describe 2024 because then it makes it seem like a backhanded compliment, like it was only weighed by a few great films. But sometimes you have that happen, right? Where sometimes the movies that really define a certain year just they reach a certain level of greatness that maybe other years don't quite hit. So in many ways, I feel like you could almost mathematically say 2024 and 2025 were just as good as each other in ways. They just mathematically get there in different ways. The variables are slightly different.
Yeah, and of course that's going to come down to the person because for me, it's not just the heavy hitters at the top of that year. Like for me, it really is the depth of 2024. There's a top 50 there. Like I don't know if there's a deeper year of this century so far than that year for me.
I mean, I think this is a deeper year personally, but I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. This year I would say is more top heavy comparatively to last year for me.
Interesting. Okay.
But I do
I
think
love the in-session math hour. That's
I know. That's exactly. Look, we've turned art into sports. You might as well turn it
now
into
we're
math too.
gambling on the Golden Globes. Like, this is where we're at.
I
that's
love
the
this.
next
I love this
segment.
movie because E equals MC squared.
Ugh, God, the worst.
You know, and of course, there's subjectivity to all that. But yeah, and that's part of why I called 2024 an all-time year. Not only, you know, like every single year, the top 10, 20 movies are always going to be great. When you're having that debate, it really does come down to depth.
Yeah.
And for me, 2024 had it all in that regard. Like 2025 was still really good, but if we're talking about depth, I would take my top 50, 60 from last year over this year.
Okay.
But I do really love the high end. And I think that's where 2025 certainly makes its case for sure in that top 30 range.
Thank God this episode is not top 50. It is top 10. So
We are only talking about our top 10. We will reveal our full top 20 at the end of this. And then just to reiterate part one, and then we'll get into our picks here. There were some themes that arose. Again, forgive me if this is redundant for those that listened to part one already, but 2025 was the year that was trying to kill me. That's why it was one of my individual special awards, because there were so many movies. It was absurd, the amount of movies we got this year about parenthood and death and grief.
Thank God I'm not a dad yet.
yeah, you dodged it just barely.
Jeez, I would not be here anymore if I happened to wait just a year or something like that.
Well, and it's going to be interesting to hear your reactions if you ever go back to revisit these films post being a father.
Yeah, I don't know if I will.
Good,
Not
actually.
for a while.
Maybe once they're 18 and out of the house, like, okay, it's safe.
Testament of Ann Lee. I think I'm gonna wait a few years. I don't know if I can do that again.
Yeah, like that and Hamnet. I don't know if I'll ever see those movies again, at least not for a long time. To Dave's point, once the kids are graduated long away from the house and they're living their own lives, and I feel a little bit more comfortable, then maybe that is the case. But yeah, a lot of movies about death and grief and how that relates to parenthood for sure. Yeah, I hope next year the theme is rainbows and unicorns. So
I like it. Let's do it.
all right. With that said, let's go ahead and transition to our top 10 movies of 2025. Are you guys ready?
Yes, sir.
Sure.
No going back.
Whatever.
This is it.
It's locked.
No
It's
going back.
locked
It's
in.
locked and loaded.
It's
You can't
locked
change them
in
anymore.
for the next 4 hours.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
All right, Dave, kick us off. What do you have at number 10?
All right, I'm preparing for people to be mad at me already, because my number 10 is a movie that I think many people have much higher, which is Marty Supreme. Josh Safdie's Marty Supreme, starring, of course, Timothy Chalamet.
It's in your top 10. I'm so mad.
Yeah, well, you know, just don't go online and you'll be all right.
Hold on. Before speaking of that, because I wanted to say something to Dave before we get going. But since we brought it back,
What did I do? Am I getting fired?
Since we brought it
What's
back,
happening right now?
Sorry for the audio listeners. You need to go to the video portion for what I'm about to do here. But I wanted to bring this up since Dave was talking about artist sports earlier. We have T-shirts.
Nice.
So you can go and get them. We have them. Stop.
Weird. That looks just like me. That's
exactly
incredible. Well done.
InSessionFilm.com/store. You can get one of these.
Dave is always mad as hell and is not going to take it anymore.
Yeah.
Yet
So
I
I'm just saying,
somehow
we've turned art into sports, and we're monetizing on that.
Might as
At least
well.
trying to.
Man.
So anyway,
Well, I guess this is an entrepreneurship, right? We have to make money.
Dave brought it up earlier, and I was like,
and a good transition to Marty Supreme, a sports movie.
A sports movie.
Yeah,
Also
it
about
is art of
capitalism.
sports, literally. Yeah.
Yes. And you know, all right. So Chalamet is great here. I don't understand if people don't think that. That is, I struggle with that. I understand the idea of Marty not being likable. That is, and I think that's a feature, not a bug. I think that is purposeful. I think you could say the same thing about the lead character in Uncut Gems.
Yep.
And God knows you could say the same thing about the lead character in Good Time. There are some deeply unlikable characters. So if you don't like that type of movie, don't go see a Josh Safdie movie. Like that's not going to be for you. And that's okay. Because that's really what he kind of homes in on, is those characters who are pushing that envelope, where you can understand why they do the things they do, even if you don't agree with why they do them. You know, in Good Time, it was about, I will do anything to protect my brother, right? In Uncut Gems, it's, I'm going to do anything to get out of this hole financially and build a better life for myself. In Marty Supreme, I'm going to be the best at something. I think ping pong just happens to be the subject. Whatever Marty was going to get passionate about, that's what he was going to be a crazy person about. It wasn't going to matter. And you want to talk about a movie that has energy and is frenetic and has the time fly by. This is one of those movies. I mean, I think this movie's like 2.5 hours.
It doesn't feel it.
I didn't feel it at all. And it's got some great surprises. You've got Gwyneth Paltrow in a really interesting role for the first time in years, you know, not being in a Marvel movie that she doesn't remember being in. Now she's actually acting again, and that's really fun. Odessa Zion is like just a revelation in this movie, just really a shocking performance from someone who we didn't know where this was coming from. It's filmed really well. The production design is great. The score is really interesting. It's a score out of time in many ways. It's like, what, set in the 50s, score from the 80s. Wild.
It's an American new wave film before it was ever even a thing, essentially.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. And the movie takes some risks with casting too. You've got Tyler, the Creator, in a really interesting role here too. I just think this movie is, even though he is unlikable, much like we talked about with Josh O'Connor on our last episode, you like watching him. Yeah. And Chalamet, he's got it. Whatever it is, that movie star thing, he's got it. Tom Cruise played a jerk in Top Gun 2, and we were still like, okay, I'm in.
There's a misunderstood movie right there.
Absolutely. And I kind of feel the same way with this. And they actually found a way to film ping pong and make it action-packed. I don't know how they did this, but it's really incredible. And I love that you have this dichotomy in this movie of Marty being over the top and ridiculous, and to a point where you're like, dude, will you just chill for 5 minutes? It's going to be okay if you just like stand still. And then you've got his opponent who's completely stoic. And I really love like seeing the two of them together. I think he's a really talented actor as well. And I think also is a professional ping pong player. And is living with the disability, and you get to feature that in this movie, and not in a way that makes that disability something he is working against, but actually a strength of his.
Yeah. Nothing to fix.
Not a thing to fix. Absolutely. And I just find this movie endlessly interesting. And one thing I wrote on Letterboxd is, it's fun and rewatchable. Maybe the first Safdie movie for me that I would pick up and watch again. I'm not gonna. I did watch Good Time again, but that's because I'm a glutton for punishment and I have my own podcast. But it's not a movie I'm like, let's just pop on Good Time. That's gonna be great for me. No, but this is a movie I can definitely see, going back to. And there's been a lot of discussion about the ending of this movie and whether it's earned or not. And that's subjective, right? It's going to be how you connect with the movie or not. I did feel like it was earned, and it's a really interesting ending because the entire movie, this is a man that cares only about the future, only what he can achieve, only what he can get. And then the end of the movie is about a future not focused on him. And I find that really interesting. I think this is a really well-crafted movie. I think it's the best Safdie Bronstein script by far. I just think this movie really, really works. It's certainly was never going to be by top 5, top 1, but like, man, I had a much better time with this than I thought I was going to, because I'm not an Uncut Gems hater, but I'm also kind of like, it's fine. I felt like a lot of people were really into it, and good for them. I'm happy for them, but I was like, yeah, KG was good in it. He was my favorite part, but it's kind of okay. But this one really does work for me.
Yeah, you know, when I first saw Marty Supreme, my first thought was, I still like Uncut Gems a little bit more, but I'm starting to maybe rethink that a little bit, and that's primarily because of what you're talking about there, Dave. There is a rewatchability to Marty Supreme that some of these other Safdie films don't quite have, and that's not a knock on those other films. They're clearly going for some other type of emotional release when compared to what Marty Supreme is going for, but there's also an earnestness to Marty Supreme that maybe these other movies don't quite have that allows you to find yourself at a certain endpoint that doesn't make you feel like you want to shoot yourself in the head, right?
Yes. And it's an important thing they're bringing up too, is that a movie doesn't have to be rewatchable to be good.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm probably never going to watch A Woman Under the Influence again, but it's one of the best movies ever made. But I don't need to put myself through that. That's terrible.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I'll have more to say about Marty Supreme later. I'll just simply say that.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good movie. Really good movie.
Before I get to before I get to that, JD, I want to play our little game here because you and I tend to share the same brain, right?
Yeah.
How much crossover do you think we're gonna have?
So that is a good question. Let's see here.
It's always around 4. I feel like 4 is maybe the magic number. Sometimes 5.
I would say 4. Looking at my list, 4. Yeah, I think 4 seems right.
I think it'll be 4. That's my number.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go with
it's going to be 5.
as well.
I have no knowledge.
It's going to be 5. Watch it be 5, or more hilariously, watch it be like 2.
I mean, it could. You're always full of surprises, and that's the fun thing about Brendan over the last, let's say, 7 years or so, is that he always offers up at least 2-3 films that will make you wonder what the hell is going on here. And it's the best. Sometimes absolutely love it.
Sometimes I do it knowing it's going to be a surprise, but thankfully it ends up being a movie that I'm happy to have there anyway because I do love it. Maybe my number 10 will be a little bit of a surprise. My number 10 is Steven Soderbergh's Black Bag.
Okay. Yeah, good
really
movie.
Good movie.
Yeah, well, and I mostly have this here because I at least wanted some film in my list to kind of represent the fun time that I had going to the movies. And this was maybe the most fun I had actually seeing a movie in theaters. It really took me back to how movies can just be so effortlessly cool. And I mean that in a way where the movie just has a slickness and a sexiness to it that is very reminiscent of the Steven Soderbergh we got in the late 90s and early 2000s with movies like Out of Sight and Ocean's 11.
Yeah.
But it still feels weirdly experimental and contemporary like most of his modern films are. So it kind of finds a neat way to bridge that gap between what films used to be and where they are now. And I like the small scale aspect of it too. And I love how it actually takes the spy genre, which is it's in a little bit of limbo right now, I feel like, especially with the pause of the James Bond franchise in particular. And ironically, this movie features a lot of James Bond references without being a James Bond movie. You have a past James Bond actor. You have an actor that was in the James Bond franchise. You have an actor who auditioned for James Bond and Michael Fassbender. You have Regé-Jean Page, who was in the running as maybe a potentially new James Bond that some people are speculating about. And I feel like this is a movie that's doing those things to also sort of deconstruct the perceived sexiness of this genre to do some new things with it. And it finds a new way to be sexy and slick and sleek without being traditional in that way. And I love how efficient that it is. It is one of the most efficient forms of entertainment that I think we saw this year. And I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, that film freaking rules. I do really love it. And I guess to speak to the depth of this year, again, especially when we're removing the comparison to 2024 out of the way, because at a certain point that just gets silly. Yeah. But 2025 was an incredible year that had great depth as well. This sits at 22 on my list, but I certainly agree with a lot of everything they're saying. Yeah. Great movie. One of my favorite Soderberghs in recent years for sure.
Yeah, that one's in my honorable mentions this year. Just, I think you put it really well. It's just, man, this movie is really effing cool. Like it's so just
fun.
And it's like, it's sexy without having very many sex scenes in it. I think, some of the sexiest scenes in the entire film are during a lie detector test.
Well, that
really
and also
like,
my favorite scene in the movie, which I had in my top 5 favorite scenes of the year, it's the satellite spy scene when
So great.
Yeah, Michael Fassbender and Marissa Abela are tracking Cate Blanchett, and if she's in trouble, even in her own making, I will do everything I can to extricate her. And her response, "My God, that is so hot."
It is. It's it's just a really it's a movie I've actually rewatched this year. It's one of those movies. It's a very easy recommend too. Like, you know, the parents are coming over. Like that's an easy one to put on. Like it's and I'm glad you brought up Out of Sight, because it does feel a little bit like that, but a little bit more reserved because he's an older director now. But yeah, man, that's a fun one. It's really good. Just for the costumes and the lighting in that dinner scene. My God, what a madman Soderbergh is.
And what a great script. What a great script from David Koepp. Really tight storytelling and great dialogue too.
And I love how they bring that dinner scene back at the very end of the film, but then twist on it a little bit with the game.
I forgot to tell you the name of the game. It's Who Grabs the Gun.
Yeah. I mean, I would just watch the two of them parry with each other for hours.
Yeah.
Like him and Blanchett together. My goodness.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. For my number 10, I'm going to one of my very favorite filmmakers working today. He is one of the bravest filmmakers working today, as Dave put it in part 1 of this episode. I'm going to Jafar Panahi. His latest film, It Was Just an Accident, falls at my number 10. And in a lot of ways, this is the movie of the year, given our current political landscape. It is an utterly captivating play on morality and catharsis, something that's obviously been bubbling for a decade and a half for Panahi since he was first arrested in 2010 and banned from making movies. It is clearly personal for him. So the idea that a person has strong moral conviction, standing up against tyrannical oppression and political violence, but where does one draw the line after being tortured and stripped of your humanity? A question that Panahi no doubt posed to himself, and thus this film becomes a mechanism for Panahi to purge his anger and bitterness, to really wrestle with deep, upbraided thoughts on vengeance and violence, which is so incredible given the writing and directing here, because these characters are clearly suffering. They are trapped by profound emotion, and given how their lives were affected by political imprisonment and torture, it's understandable why they would have a visceral reaction when they believe they've captured the man who was responsible for the volatility they now experience, even if we don't agree with how they reciprocate that torment back to that character. But even after kidnapping him, there's something holding them back from going all the way with it. And that gray area is full of immense tension in that film. Something that manifests in this sensory way, because when they were tortured, they could not see the torturer's face. But Vahid, one of our central characters, recognizes him by sound. Shiva remembers his smell. The Hamid character is able to discern by touching the scars on his leg. All of these things give credence to what they think is true. So what's holding them back? Why don't they make the final blow? Centering your movie around that dividing line was certainly not just an accident. There's plenty to cultivate with all of that, but I do love what Panahi does here aesthetically and with the camera to render this film as sensory as possible. The sound design is honestly one of the best of the year, underratedly so. It's really, really great. Obviously, you can't smell the scene, but aesthetically, you can certainly imagine. And we do see the character scars a couple of different times. And when you couple that with the unbroken long takes that we see here and other filmmaking tactics that Panahi introduces, it just heightens so much of the tension and conflict. The performances here are excellent. It's one of the best casted films of the year, and I quite loved it. One of the best endings of the year. We talked about that on part 1 as well.
That squeak, as Dave put it, that squeak.
So good. That squeak will live on in cinema lore. I was pretty blown away by this. I really loved it a lot. My number 10.
Yeah, I'll talk about that later.
All right.
Awesome.
I'll talk about it now. And I also have to highlight that unlike most years, I usually feel pretty good about my top 10 going into these exercises. This is maybe one of those times where I could see my list changing in a couple days. I feel like my numbers 1 through number 7 feel pretty locked in, but my numbers 8 through number, I don't know, 17 or 18 have very easy arguments as to how they could ultimately switch up. So when I say it was just an accident number 12, that's ultimately why. So it is in my top 20. It is one of my honorable mentions, but not quite in my top 10 at this current point. But I wouldn't be surprised if I give it a rewatch. It makes its way up there at some point.
Good stuff. Yeah. Really love the film a lot. All right, Dave, what do you got at number 9?
All right. Number 9 is going to make Brendan like me for about 5 minutes. Number 9 is Carson Lund's EFIS, a movie that for me came out of nowhere and just kind of floored me. It's, JD talked about it on the last episode as well, as did Brendan. This, JD brought up his experience in like beer league hockey and really connecting to this. And for me, it's a lot about aging. It's a lot about our bodies breaking down. It's a lot about the energy and life we give to hobbies that other people might look at and be like, what are you doing? Like, I'm sure my wife did tonight when I was like, I'm going to podcast for another 4 hours tonight. She was like, Jesus Christ.
It's hard on the body. You sit still for a while.
It's a completely valid reaction. And I think this movie is also kind of masterfully written and structured. The way that, because at the beginning of this movie, essentially, this is the last chance that they're going to get to play at this field that they've been playing at for however many years.
Yeah.
And it's not just chance that this is being demolished for a school, right? It's literally the future coming through and bulldozing your present and your past. And who hasn't felt like that as things start to change and we start to react slower as people who are aging, not just physically, but react slower to like the changing world around us. And as someone who loves baseball, like this, of course, was going to be up my alley no matter what. There is a slowness to the sport of baseball that I think lends itself to this cinematic texture that we get here. The voiceover that we get, the guy keeping score, the umpires who can barely see, the fact that the lights start to go out and they bring in their cars so they can light the way at the end of this. I find that ending like one of the most moving endings of the year. It really got to me and really surprised me at how much it did. Because I was watching it going, this is fun. I'm enjoying this. Of course I am. It's a sports movie. It's a baseball movie. Of course I'm going to be into it. But by the end, I was like, wow, this is actually saying a lot about life and the way we move through it and how important these bonds are, even if sometimes as men, we are unable to tell each other like, hey, buddy, I love you. I care about you. Instead, we rib each other. Right. Yeah. And you see that in beer leagues and you see that in stuff like EFIS, where it's like, it's coming from a place of goodness, but it's like, yeah, but I'm going to give you some crap the entire time. Cause that's how we interact.
That's how
men
that's how we express love sometimes. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So I love EFIS. EFIS, my number 9, and a movie that I will definitely go back to. I've already watched it twice this year. I could see this definitely being kind of a background movie for me. Like just put this on and kind of relax, It's a good one.
Yeah. It's cozy in that way.
Yeah.
Dave, you said I'll like you for the next 5 minutes because of this pick. I think the better way to phrase it is that you and I are going to like each other for maybe the next 10 minutes because it's also my number 9.
Nice.
Yeah. I agree with everything that you said. And what I love about this movie too is not just the camaraderie at play, to your point and everything you spoke about there, but I love that this is a movie about baseball without being about the sport of baseball, but it's about the spirit of baseball.
Yes.
And I feel like out of all of the American sports that we watch and find ourselves very interested in, there's something about the culture of baseball that just feels almost like its own vibe in a way. And this movie captures that. And the fact that this is all taking place on a very special field for these men that is now being demolished for something that's ultimately not really a bad thing, a school, right?
Right.
But the whole movie has this kind of heavenly aura to it. It almost feels like a eulogy. And I guess that means it's no coincidence that every hour we hear church bells. So it's playing with that kind of almost ethereal, fantastical kind of energy that this is the end of something beautiful. So the movie does have a very loving spirit to it, but it also kind of has a bit of a mean-spirited edge at times simultaneously.
Totally.
Because it's about how much these men love this sport so much. To see it get ripped away from them like this, it brings out kind of the worst in them, knowing that in this small rural town, this is maybe the thing that they really look to as something to keep their manlyhood alive. And now that's being taken away. So there's something very heartbreaking and bittersweet about that ending. It is very beautiful to your point, but it's also kind of sad at the same time. And it strikes that balance perfectly. I think it's a very nuanced emotional experience, and I think it's quite great.
Totally. I mean, it's the second movie you can say, like, how can you not be romantic about baseball? Like,
exactly.
Really, that line fits in this movie too.
It is the most romantic sport. I really think so.
Yeah.
And this movie understands that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say as I interject here. I really love this film a lot as well. And I guess to foster a little emotion here, and as a way to reiterate something I said on part one, we recorded that episode earlier in the afternoon. Typically we record these episodes at night, but I had to record earlier in the afternoon because I had my beer league hockey last night. And there's something about everything that you guys are saying, coupled with the context of the weekend for me, which was really difficult, that gave me an EFIS-like experience that I have not really had in a long time. And it's interesting because it starts off with me getting there, going into the locker room, and you sit down, you start to get dressed. And at one point, one of my teammates just starts giving me a bunch of shit for something that had happened last week. And again, it reminded me so much of this film. And then you get out there and you get playing, and Dave, you're talking about how you're there because you love playing this, but also your body reminds you that you're old and you can't do it at an elite level anymore.
Watching these men run around the bases, it is maybe anti-cinema. It is amazing.
It's incredible. And last night, there was a play where the puck goes into the corner after I had made a good play, but after I go to chase it in the corner and my right knee just gives out.
Yeah, nope, you're not going to the corner, buddy. You can't pivot like that.
Oh man,
you made
me nervous there, JD, because whenever you mention hockey and your knee, I quiver for you.
Well, and that's the reason that moment happened, is because I've had these injuries with my knee, and so as I stride toward the corner, my knee just doesn't have the strength that it used to. So I just get this little ache that's like, nope, you're old. You're 40 years old. You can't move like you used to. Nope. And so I'm out there one-legged, it felt like at times, but I am 1000% romantic about sports. Yeah. And I love that this film is romantic. And last night I felt the most romantic about hockey in a long time. And part of it is the EFIS-like experience you get, the camaraderie of being around these guys that you love, and just playing the game from this pure perspective. None of us are getting paid to be there. We're putting our bodies on the line, and it's all for the love of the game. And also just given the weekend that I had all of this pent up emotion that just came out on the ice. And it was absolutely gorgeous. It was maybe the most fun I've had in a while. And I got to my truck and I honestly, I broke down. Like I had a moment in my truck just relishing in the beauty of the moment and in some of the grief that I'm experiencing at the moment. And it was quite lovely. So I thought about EFIS a lot last night.
Nice.
On my way home, and I do love this film a lot. It sits at number 15 on my list. I really love it a lot. In my top 20 for sure. All right, I'm going to a film at my number 9 that maybe similar-ish to Dave talking about Marty Supreme. Maybe this is a little too low for some, but I really fell in love with Mary Bronstein's "If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You." That's my number 9 here.
Can I interject quickly, JD, because this is also my number 8.
There you go. All right, so more crossover between Brendan and I. Love to hear that. I love this film. It is very similar to how I feel about Die My Love. We joked about that when we did the review, but I do love how this is similar to that film and how it's this raw and unrestrained examination of parenthood and the exhaustive challenges you sometimes face, especially when you're wrestling with this deep void of emptiness and isolation, much of it caused by your partner's inability to provide some sort of stability. In this case, her husband, Linda, is the central character. I believe that's her name. Her husband is physically gone for most of the film. And because he's not there, he simply cannot see or understand what Linda is experiencing, which further leads to her recoiling. She is forced to confront motherhood in seclusion while succumbing to mental stress and pressures due to complications outside of her control. And as a result, Linda doesn't have the best maternal instincts. She clearly loves her daughter, but it's almost like she's living in a different reality than everyone else around her. It's a fascinating character that Rose Byrne brings to life in ways that's almost hard to describe. She is phenomenal in this film. The volatility and intensity she exhibits in every moment is something to behold. Sometimes it's surprisingly quite funny, but mostly it's suffocating and panic-inducing. I say very complimentary. And to echo something I said in our review of this film as well, Mary Bronstein, I'm sorry I wasn't familiar with your game, because good Lord, her direction here is incredibly inspired. The framing and composition, the extreme close-ups on Byrne are really, really great. If the camera isn't focused on her, there's something happening in the frame necessary to give credence to Linda's unraveling. I deeply, deeply love the choice to hide Linda's daughter from the audience. That framing helps immerse us more into Linda's unraveling, and it leads to one of the year's best reveals. That ending scene there on the beach is a killer. It is so good. Also, I did not expect this film to have some of the very best sound design of the film or of the year as well. It, much like I just described with Panahi, this is a sensory experience, and Bronstein does everything in her power to make Linda's nightmare come to life. And I haven't even mentioned the use of symbolism and surrealism in the film, which is a whole nother element that is
a whole
really, really great.
Another element?
A whole nother, yes, exactly. It is one of the best directed movies of the year. She was probably my number 6 for best director.
Same.
I really, really love this film. I cannot wait to see what Bronstein does next. If I had legs, I'd kick you. Really great. My number 9.
I guess I can speak to it now since it's my number 8, but Dave, I don't know if you have it at your number 8 or maybe later on in your list and you want to just wait to talk about it. So
no, it's actually number 14 for me.
Okay.
And I had a strange realization after our podcast last night or yesterday afternoon, I guess, that my best actor was Chalamet and my best actress was Rose Byrne. And those are my number 10 and 14. So just because you have a great performance doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be at the top of your list, which I just found really interesting. I think Rose Byrne is, granted, was in the bag for this from the beginning because Rose Byrne is one of my favorite actors and has been for many years, to the point that last night during the Golden Globes, I received somewhere between 7 and 12 messages from people when Rose Byrne won, congratulating me for that. So I guess the brand is so strong.
Proud. People know you so well.
The brand is strong. But she's incredible in this movie. I think,
unreal.
JD, you really hit something really important, that you need an actor of her caliber because there are funny moments in this movie, even though it is like very much a drama. Like a straight up drama. There's a lot going on, but there's moments in it that are actually laugh out loud funny. And to the point where you're like, should I be laughing at this? I feel uncomfortable. But because it's Rose Byrne, because she's such an accomplished actor in both of those forms, it kind of eases you into it and allows you to feel all the emotions that she is feeling.
Yeah.
And that's
really
the brilliance
tremendous.
of it, because those funny moments often come when her maternal instincts are at their worst.
Oh my God.
It's an
It's
incredible
so,
dichotomy.
like just the exasperation, like just like
Just how
you just
tired,
know
yeah.
she's like in her head, like, will you shut the I am so tired of your lip. I just eat, will you? Like it's just like, and you can understand that, like as even as someone who's not a parent, but someone who's even thought about being a parent, if your child just won't eat, and like the basic thing, like, does that make me a bad parent? Is it something that I have done? And she embodies that feeling so impeccably. The movie's a little up and down for me with the kind of surrealism. It's a little bit on the nose for me, this idea
Everything's on the nose with you, Dave. You gotta let it go.
Subtlety is overrated.
I need a little bit of subtlety, but I think the choices that Bronstein makes in the way she films the movie, that is maybe the best part about the film, is not just that you're not showing the child, but the camera, poor Rose Byrne, it's got to be like 4 inches from her face for the entire film.
The
she's
whole
like,
movie. Yeah.
And she's kind of talked about this in interviews jokingly, like, oh, well, my skin's in good shape for this movie because that camera is right there.
Oh, thank goodness it still looks great.
Yes. But yeah, just a really, really wonderful film, and was, if we did this tomorrow, it might be my number 9 or 10. Like there's a lot of movement.
That's the pain of this year. I want to highlight Christopher Messina, who is the cinematographer for this movie. We often talk about how great the cinematography is, and we talked about it a lot on episode or part 1 of this particular episode, because the movie feels like it's in first person in a way, by never leaving Linda, quite literally being so I mean, the movie is basically one constant close-up on Linda, and it's unnerving and unsettling. And, we often talk a lot about great performers that know how to straddle this line between drama and comedy. And that's maybe a very broad, high-level way to describe one's particular skill. We don't often describe a great performer as someone that knows how to tap into hysteria so well. And her performance, Rose Byrne specifically, is borderline hysterical. And I think that's why she's able to create this even keel between such great sadness, but also sometimes real laugh out loud moments, because sometimes hysteria encompasses all those things simultaneously. And she's able to embody that perfectly. And that is ultimately why it is my number 8 film of the year. And going back to the cinematography once again, and why Mary Bronstein's direction is so good, it's not just because it's so nightmarish, it's the way that she plays with perspective. There's a lot of uncertainties regarding Linda as to whether she even is a reliable narrator or not. We can either take Linda at face value and believe that everyone around her is absolutely horrible to her, because sometimes depression can be so severe that it begins to alienate the people around you, right? And you could push people away in that regard. Or perhaps in the case of Linda, this is purely her warped point of view manufacturing a haunted, evil world around her. And the movie kind of brings you into this psychological debate, which I found really captivating. So I agree with everything that you guys have said. It is my number 8 film of the year. So we have our first crossover there, JD.
Yep. Our first crossover, although we alluded to another already. So I think we have 2, but we'll see. Technically, officially 1 crossover at
we
the
have
moment.
4. I'm telling you, we have
probably
4.
have 4, but we'll say officially 1 at the moment. That is your number 8. So Dave, your number 8.
My number 8, I can almost guarantee that there will be no crossover with this one.
I love it.
My number 8 is The Ugly Stepsister, a movie I brought up on our award show. So as you might assume, yes, this is a twist on a fairy tale. It's a twist on Cinderella, and I say this in the most complimentary way. This movie is gross. It's disgusting. It is foul. And it rules. It's so good. The fact that, I think our fairy tales in our culture, our modern culture, have become so Disneyfied that a lot of people don't understand where these come from. And this, it didn't start with Grimm's fairy tales, but that's what popularized this. And
that is the fun irony of Disney and how those folklores have been twisted over the years. They've become Disneyfied, but they do start off quite dark.
Yeah, really, really dark. So this one, of course, puts you in the mindset of one of the stepsisters, the quote unquote ugly stepsister. And it's really interesting because it turns it on its head in a number of ways. This stepsister is a romantic. She has fallen in love with the prince. The prince doesn't know who she is. The prince has never seen her, but she has, as if he is like a pop star, she has fallen in love with him. And she wants to find a way because she just knows that if he meets her, they will fall in love. Right. And, you know, her mother has married this man who, of course, has a child who is our Cinderella character. But our Cinderella character is not so innocent in this version. You know, she is not pure. She is, you know, excuse my language, she's banging the stable boy. And there is, and you want to talk about like American movies versus movies not made here. It's not very often you will see an erect penis in an American film. And you do actually see that here. And it is like, I remember watching this, I'm watching it at home, and I was like, whoa. I was like, I just wasn't prepared. I did not know that that's the type of movie I was sitting down to watch.
Imagine that kind of interjection in the theater if you saw it in that setting.
I know. I mean, thank God I was at home. You know, these are movies that don't get play in theaters in the United States, especially in Kentucky. That's not going to happen. But this movie is more than just about a fairy tale or a twist on a fairy tale. It also has a lot to say about beauty standards and about what women have to deal with. And they paint it in the lens of a horror film. Like quite literally, there is a sequence here. One of the most disturbing things I saw this year where there were eyelashes being literally sewn into eyelids, like with a needle and thread. And there's a sequence in this movie where they give a character a nose job, and they do it essentially with a tiny hammer and something placed there and just dink, and you hear her scream. And it's really disturbing. It's a really disturbing movie. But I love it. It's another movie that I actually rewatched this year because I was like, I watched it and I reviewed it for a place called Geek Vibes Nation. And I was like, and then, you know, sometimes when you first see a movie, I don't know about you guys, but when I first see a movie, I tend to overdo it with like, this is great, as opposed to the other way. I tend to overestimate how much I like something. So I always like to go back and watch something again and be like, okay, is this as good as I remember? Because sometimes that first time you watch it, especially a movie like this, that is so extreme and so extra in so many ways, you might have a very strong reaction. And this is one of those movies. I was talking to my family about this because, you know, they're always, I'm sure they do this to you too. Like, what's your top 10 this year? What movies are good? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, here's my top 10, but I don't recommend all of these. I don't think this is for you. This is one of those movies that you want to talk about not for everyone. This is definitely not for everyone. Even if you like a horror movie, you might not be into, because there's some body horror stuff going on here. There's one of the characters literally swallows a tapeworm so she can eat all she wants and get skinny. And it is really disturbing, but really well handled. The performances are really good. The direction is excellent. I can't wait to see what she does next. I just kind of adore this movie, so much so that there is a Blu-ray of this coming out, and like an idiot, I pre-ordered it. It's like $50. And I'm like, just like, you know,
I don't know. That doesn't sound idiotic. That sounds passionate. I love
but
it.
I just, you know, like movies like this, smaller movies like this, I feel a little bit of extra pressure to support it because, you know, movies like Sinners and One Battle After Another,
that has an audience.
Four, I don't need to support that. They're okay. But this movie is the one like you need to put your money behind because they need to know that people actually like this crazy messed up movie. And I am one of those sickos that absolutely adores it.
And speaking of why it needs more support, I sadly haven't seen this one yet. It's a blind spot for me. And the way you described it there, Dave, it sounds like something I'm going to dig. It really does.
Yeah, I have seen it. I don't like it quite as much as Dave, but I do really appreciate this film a lot. Not just its subversions on the Cinderella story, but as you noted, Dave, this film unabashedly leans into its grotesque imagery. There are several sequences in this film that will make you recoil. It is one of the most effective body horror films in
JD,
recent
just
memory.
that 1, 2, 3, just that. It's oh my god.
Yeah.
And the sound. You were talking about sound design. Good gracious.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's striking. The imagery here is quite unforgettable in a lot of ways, for sure. Yeah, it is a good movie though. I definitely urge people to check it out, especially if you're horror fans and fans of body horror, especially.
Yeah, all you
There's a lot to
Cronenberg
appreciate.
heads, go check this one
Yeah.
out too.
For
That's
sure.
yeah, love Cronenberg.
All right, so that is your number 8. We have already discussed Brendan's number 8, so that circles back to me. And wouldn't you know it, we are back talking about one of my favorite directors working today. She's one of my gals, the great Kelly Reichardt. The mastermind is my number 8.
Nice.
Kind of surprised this is in your top 10. I love that, JD.
I love this movie. It is the exact kind of anti-heist film you would expect from Kelly Reichardt, in the
100%.
sense that it's methodical, it is unconventional. You could almost accuse the film of being scant, which I think is very much the point. It is breezy and pointed, because this is a movie straight out of the new Hollywood era. This film time traveled from 1975 into 2025. Its time period aesthetics are immaculate. The production design and costuming are really great. The cinematography is smothered in these grainy brown and gray hues that complement those period details. The film is incredibly reminiscent of something like The Long Goodbye and California Split, two films from that era that I absolutely adore. Altman, I think, would have loved this. Cassavetes as well. And then there's Josh O'Connor, who plays a guy by the name of James. And he is one of the absolute worst characters of the year. I say very complimentary. He is remarkably detestable. He is utterly clueless and couldn't be more detached from the politics of the era, which makes the title of the film hilariously ironic. He's simply one of those classic I can never do anything right characters that you just cannot take your eyes off of. Reminded me a lot of Llewyn Davis in that regard. James is just the absolute worst. But it's really fun to see how Reichardt devolves James as his world crumbles around him. He's the shallowest of art thieves. And I think that's why this film's slight narrative works here. James isn't that complicated, and Reichardt isn't interested in some sort of psychoanalysis of why he squandered his comfortable middle-class life. It's as simple as James having the luxury to disregard the political climate and rebel without any second thought. I do think there's more going on beyond that, but really at the heart of this film, it's about that cogent irony of James's ignorance to the reality around him. And the results in the film are pretty funny, often entertaining, a bit chaotic. Again, all funneled through that Reichardt methodical way that I just absolutely love. I did nominate her for Best Director for a reason. I think it is, without question, one of the best directed movies of the year. Josh O'Connor was nominated for me for Best Actor as well. He had a great year. You could really flip a coin as far as his performances go, but I think there's just something about
You need a four-sided coin.
I know. You need a four-sided coin,
Well,
which I think those exist.
don't all three of us have different picks for the best Josh O'Connor performance of the year? I think
think
that's
so.
what we determined last night.
And that's the fun of Josh O'Connor's year, right? I think
Yeah.
that is totally warranted for sure. I
Yeah.
think for me, a lot of it comes down to how much this film registers with me and how detestable he is, how O'Connor simply plays that up. And it's very funny, but also heartbreaking at the same time in a lot of ways. The score, as Brendan talked about in part one, is very good. The cinematography is exquisite. There's just a lot to love here, at least if you're a fan of that new Hollywood era style of movie that I really love. You know, Altman, Cassavetes, I'm totally there for it. This is very much Reichardt channeling those filmmakers but doing it her way. So yeah, this was always going to speak to me, and I love it. It's my number 8 here.
Nice. Yeah, that was a honorable mention for me. Really, really enjoyed it. I just keep like smiling to myself and thinking of the scene with the ladder. It's like one of my favorite 4 or 5 minutes
That's
in
funny.
the movies
It's so
this year.
funny.
It's legitimately laugh out loud funny.
Oh,
Like
it's very, very good.
I was lucky
Yeah.
enough to see this in a theater of like-minded people because you're not going to go see a Kelly Reichardt movie unless you want to go see a Kelly Reichardt movie. Like you got to.
Mhm.
This is an effortful process, especially if you don't
Mhm.
live in LA or New York or Chicago. Like you have to
Yeah.
like really seek this out. So there was about 30 people there, and we were all just kind of chuckling out loud at this. It's so funny.
It's
A
surprisingly
really
goofy movie, and I love
It
that.
is so goofy
Mhm.
Yeah.
but really, really enjoyable stuff. And Josh O'Connor is great, but it's not just the Josh O'Connor of it all. I think the whole movie, it's really well cast. It's really funny on all sides. It has a lot
Mhm.
to say. It's got a lot on its mind. Really, really good movie. Really underseen movie this year.
Yeah. It's my number 13. So it is one of my honorable
Okay.
mentions as well. I just think it's
Yeah.
hilariously ironic, maybe a unfortunate coincidence as well, that the university that Kelly Reichardt teaches at, Bard College, if I'm not mistaken, the art department was actually robbed on the day that she shot the heist for
Yeah.
this movie.
Incredible.
And
I
this
wonder
She
if
did it.
that
She did it. I know it.
yeah, she did it. Yeah,
She
that was her
did.
inspiration. Yes, it was practice.
That's right. The movie is practice for the real thing. This is it.
But
Yeah.
in a way, like I do wonder if maybe that affected her headspace when making this movie. If it was shot early enough to fix or not fix, but shoot the rest of the movie, because the rest of the movie does kind of have this cynicism to it as well,
Yeah.
which is maybe a little bit different from what we normally expect from Kelly Reichardt. So I do wonder how much real life does bleed into this movie, but it does feel so
Mhm.
genuine in that
Yeah,
regard. that I
this is
can't
not
help but
First
feel-
Cow. Like
No, it's not
not.
First Cow, not at all.
No. I also think it's funny that the film was released the week that the Louvre was also robbed.
Incredible.
It was the
Incredible.
same people that
irony
did
is
it.
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
the
maybe
same
Reichardt
same
was behind that
security
too.
at both sites. Good gracious. I
All
mean,
you
you
have to
heard
do
about
is-
that, right? The password was Louvre. Like
That's
Just
unbelievable.
drunkenly stumble out with a painting and you're fine.
I'm like, I could crack that little code. Like that's
Yeah.
not
But that real life scenario just makes this film all the more hilarious to me because it like an idiot really could stumble into that and pull that off.
absolutely.
yeah.
Just take it off the wall and walk out the front door. You're fine.
Just
Mastermind indeed.
Mastermind, absolutely. So yeah, that is my number 8. All right. Let's move on to number 7. Dave, what do you have at number 7?
All right. So at number 7, I have Joachim Trier's Sentimental Value.
All right.
This is a movie that when I watched it, I felt challenged by the first 20 to 30 minutes. It definitely takes its time. And if you are not up for slow cinema, you might actually tune out of it a little bit too quick. It is a movie you have to sit with. You have to let it kind of open itself up to you. Because if you don't, I think you're actually going to miss a great deal of what it has to offer. So you have to sit with it and not make snap judgments, which is interesting because in some ways, some of the characters do that. Characters are making snap judgments and it is hurting them in the long run. But by the time the credits rolled, like I was very struck emotionally by this movie. And all I kept thinking about is it's a movie about the relationships we think we deserve versus the relationships that we have. And there's an easy way to not be grateful for what we have because it's not what we feel we should have. We don't get to pick our family. We do get to pick our friends, but our family, that's who you got. And this is speaking as someone who was raised with a father who in some ways was very connected and in other ways was very distant. So I felt very connected to this movie, feeling like that there is, they talk in this movie. One of the siblings kind of talks about when I was with you making that movie, that was the best time in my life with you because I got to be with you. And I have felt that with my own father. When you're in that limelight, you feel like, yes, this is it. And then when you're not, when he's busy or doing other things, like for just a little intro into my life, my father was a teacher and that meant everything to him, to the detriment of his own family, because he would spend more time with his students than he would with his kids. And when you're out of that limelight, it hurt. And so I think you see that in many of the performances here. And this is one of those movies that honestly, you could give this movie 3 nominations for acting, and I'd be like, yeah, that sounds about right. Because they're all really, really excellent. And it's, and the movie is structured in such a way, of course, we've talked on the previous episode about the house as a character. And I think that's kind of masterfully done. But what really kills me in this movie is the ending of the film. Because the way this movie builds, you're not sure how this movie is going to end until the last moment of the last scene. And Renata Renciv in that last scene, she's always great. I'm not going to say like, oh, this is the best thing she's ever done or blah, blah, blah. But that last scene may be her best work thus far as an actor. And that's saying a lot because she is really incredible. And honestly, she's one of those actors that if she was born here and English was her first language, she would probably have like 5 Academy Award nominations by now. But she'd be our Meryl Streep of this generation. And I do think she is that good. And her and Stellan, of course, go toe to toe incredibly. As does Fanning, as does Inga. Like they're all really, actually, now that I think of it, 4 Academy Award nominations for acting, and I would be totally fine.
5 if you include the House for Best Supporting Actor.
Seriously,
exactly.
I mean, but it is that good. And this is a movie that I am recommending to people, but I'm also telling them, please, when you watch it, be patient. There are going to be times in the first 20 minutes where you're likely going to get fidgety. That's okay. Just sit with it, and it is going to pay off because this movie has a tremendous payoff by the end. I love it, and it's a movie I hope to go back to after a little while because I can only deal with so much emotion back to back. I'm going to need a bit before I go back to this.
Yeah. I love when we have crossover on our lists. They're in such close proximity with where another person has it on their list, which maybe allows us to save a little bit of time in the grand scheme of this episode.
Love it.
I also have this at number 7 for me, for all the reasons that you talked about there, Dave. And taking it even a step further, I love that you're talking about the ending and not really knowing where it's going to go. There's a lot of ambiguity and uncertainty in how Joachim Trier plays with narrative. So there's even a little bit of suspense to it without it being a suspense film. Yet at the same time, you also kind of know that it's going to end in some way relating back to that one take sequence that he telegraphs for us early on. And I love that he does it in that way because he kind of sets us up to think that, okay, our director here, played by Stellan Skarsgård, is going to craft some type of one take sequence for his film. When we finally get to it, we're ready for all of the moving pieces, and then it gets us thinking, but what's the one thing that's going to make it slightly different? And that one thing that does make it slightly different in the end is why this movie really sticks with me, because it goes back to this idea, and JD, you and I talked about this during our review, about how sometimes people only know how to connect with other people through what that art or what that vice is. And that's not a bad thing sometimes. Sometimes there doesn't need to be an exchange in dialogue between two people to showcase some type of loving connection. I think about my relationship with my own father, which is thankfully very healthy. I have a very good relationship with my dad. But let's say, what if it was a little strained? Maybe we might find some connection through music because he was a musician. He is a musician. He still plays music. But what if that was our only thing? There might be a lot of beauty in that. And this movie does kind of make you think about how relationships can sometimes still feel very healthy and loving that aren't as traditionally communicated, if that makes sense.
Totally.
And I love the way that this movie uses art to showcase that. There must be something in the international waters when it comes to movies about art and life and how that line is blurred, because I was thinking a lot about movies like Drive My Car or Pain and Glory or last year's Close Your Eyes, for instance. I think all of these movies are doing some rather similar things as far as that melding of life and art, and sometimes how confused that it might ultimately seem when they feel like they're ultimately coming from the same source. But I think this is yet another great example of that. And any other year, this could even be higher on my list. And maybe by tomorrow, it would be higher on my list. But needless to say, it's still one of the best movies of the year.
I'm also glad you brought up that kind of art piece and that connection through like this one thing. And it, makes you think about my own dad and when he was passing and he was really sick and couldn't talk and could barely move. And the only thing that would make him smile and relax, back to Ephus, was if the baseball game was on. And that was the thing we could always talk about. Even if we were angry at each other or disconnected, we could go talk about the Giants and we could pass some time. I remember sitting next to him as he was actively dying, watching the Giants game. And that was the only thing that would allow him to settle. So finding those connections, whatever they may be, are really, really important. Even if you can't talk, even if you can't connect in a loving, healthy way, there are ways you can still find those inroads.
Yep.
Yeah. That's why it won Best Screenplay for me, for all the reasons you guys were talking about. It is a masterclass in storytelling. And I do love how cogent it is, but also ambiguous enough that it's a screenplay you have to participate in.
Yes.
It doesn't hold your hand. To your point, Dave, you have to be patient because the film gives you the clues along the way to put it together. It doesn't do it for you. And I love that style of storytelling, and it leads to a really, really incredible ending full of great pathos, as you guys have already talked about. Really great stuff. Do love that film as well. As I get into my number 7, I want to begin here. We have a t-shirt, another t-shirt. Again, if you want to go to the store to support the show.
We have a lot of t-shirts.
We have a lot of t-shirts. We have one that says, the best thing that ever happened to La La Land is that it lost to Moonlight. And the reason we have that t-shirt is because for some stupid reason, the discourse decided to pit those two movies that are not alike at all as rivals. That would be like the New York Football Giants and the San Jose Hockey Sharks being rivals. They don't play the same goddamn sport. But they're rivals because we've turned them into rivals. So anyway, that's the moral of the story behind that t-shirt and why we have it. And what's Moonlight 1? La La Land could live in peace. And I love that film. And since that whole debacle, La La Land, I can probably count on one hand how many times people have brought that movie up over the last 10 years. It has been a movie that I can enjoy, that I can waft in, that I can just absolutely love, hands-free. Don't have to worry about. Let me tell you why that's bad. Discourse. No, and the reason I say that, the reason I bring that up, is because my number 7 is probably in contention for Best Picture, especially after last night, but I am rooting against it so hard. I am rooting against this film winning Best Picture because if it does win, people are going to put their bullseyes up and it will be an endless barrage. It will be the ending of 300 every single goddamn day for the rest of my life.
Someone's going to get kicked down the death pit or all the time.
Right. Yes, exactly. I am, of course, talking about Chloe Zhao's Hamnet.
I knew you were going to go there with that one.
Do not vote for this for Best Picture. If you're an Academy voter listening to this, any other film except this one, please. You can vote for Jesse, that's fine. Just not Best Picture. I beg of you. Because I love this film and I want to enjoy it in peace. This is a film that destroyed me in ways that I can't even begin to articulate. I will try to here, but it might be an impossible challenge. It is absolutely devastating. But what I really love about the film is that it's much more than just a movie about grief and loss. And I do feel like this isn't as talked about in the discourse, and I feel like it should be. This movie is equally interested in life and love and family, and of course, the deep power of art as a means of healing. Did we just talk about that? Do I hear an echo in here?
That sounds familiar. I don't know. Remind me again. You might want to repeat yourself there, JD.
Yeah. We don't know for certain if Hamlet was inspired at all by the death of Hamnet. But as we talked about in part 1, who cares? Who cares? This film unequivocally buys that idea and essentially infers that Hamlet is, in many ways, Shakespeare's The Fabelmans, a tragedy born out of a tragedy with art becoming the nucleus for hope and healing. It's one of my very favorite tropes in film, and I was floored by how this film denotes art as a profound mechanism for catharsis. What those final moments signify for William and for Anne, as I noted in part one, together, but also individually, is utterly beautiful and endlessly poignant. Similarly, I love what this film does with Hamnet and how it exhibits his relationship with his sister Judith. The symbolism behind his sacrifice could be seen as heavy-handed, but I find it remarkably human and compassionate. And I think it works because of how the film builds to it. That scene of Judith's birth and Hamnet, I think, is an extraordinary scene in itself. But also we find out that Judith is vulnerable to disease, and there's a great moment where William tells Hamnet that he has to be brave while he has gone to London. So there's a lot of foreshadowing going on, and I don't think that Zhao is hiding from any of that at all. She's very clearly leaning into it as a way of giving credence to Hamnet's choices when he sees that his sister is on her deathbed. And because this film is operating on a very symbolic plane to begin with, it makes sense that Zhao would depict those final scenes in this surreal, ethereal way that we do see, and how that comes about. There's a lot of visual storytelling to this film, and I was absolutely riveted by how it all unfolds. The performances here are excellent. Jessie Buckley rips my heart out. She was my winner for Best Actress, and she is on her way to winning the Oscar, and I could not be more thrilled for her. Point. Paul Mescal, I think, is phenomenal here as well. Jacoby Jupe, as we noted in part one of the best child performances in recent years. He was a Best Supporting Actor nom for me as well. The score, Max Richter, I had Marty Supreme as my score of the year, but that Max Richter score is probably my number two. I deeply, deeply love it. Not mentioning, again, the ending of that, not getting into that rabbit hole again. Who cares? Again, hard to put into words, certainly tried, but this film rendered me in a certain way that very few films have ever done. Grave of the Fireflies is maybe the last time I got to the point I did in terms of the emotional catharsis that I had with this film. I very, very heavily responded to it. It is my number 7 here.
Yeah. I know it didn't speak to you as much, Dave, when compared to JD here, but I know you have a lot to admire about the film still. It's interesting because I didn't have this movie represented all that much in part one of our award show, outside of maybe Jacoby Jupe and me actually giving him the award for Best Supporting Actor. Yet I do have Hamnet in my top 20. It's actually at number 20, at least at this current point. So I still think it is one of the more moving films of the year for the reasons that JD talked about. And I do think it is quite fascinating to see a movie that kind of challenges what maybe literary historians often argue for, right? And the idea that maybe Hamlet was written from a very particular perspective, and maybe we just don't know what that grief-ridden perspective was. And this movie kind of presents a really interesting historical what-if scenario. And I think in those ways, I found that really intriguing about it.
Yeah. Nope.
I love you too, Dave.
This is the movie that I struggled with the most this year, because as we've talked about, a movie I expected to love. It's still, despite the fact that I did not connect emotionally to it, there's enough good about it that it's still in my top half of the movies I saw this year. So there's a lot to kind of hold on to, and it's got some themes that I really, really like. And I'll just use this opportunity to tell people, just like I told last year, please watch Ghostlight. That's my pick for a movie about the power of theater and dealing with loss. That was in my top 5 last year. So go watch that. I'm not going to sit here and be the jerk who talks trash about a movie that emotionally impacted a whole lot of people. That's why we watch movies, is to have that emotional connection. So I am deeply glad that so many people did, and a little bit envious that I didn't. I was hoping to have a reaction like that, and it just didn't work for me. And it's a strange one, because usually when a movie doesn't work for me, I can pinpoint exactly why. And this one I'm a little confused by. So I'm hoping at some point next year to rewatch it with fresh eyes and try again. Because you know as well as I do, sometimes a year later, a movie will have a totally different impact on you. So,
and sometimes that happens when in the profession that we have here as film critics, and we're trying to cram as many movies in as possible, sometimes you're just not in the right headspace for a particular movie, and sadly it's not fair to that movie, and it just could be a wrong time kind of thing.
And the build up, everyone kind of saying like, oh, it's one of the best movies of ever, and it's going to make you cry your face off until you die. And I'm like, okay, is it? Strangely, you bringing up Grave of the Fireflies, I had the exact same experience with that movie. JD telling me it was going to kill me, and I was like, huh, yeah, pretty sad. Anyway, next.
It's kind of interesting because the movies that I respond to more that I call absolutely devastating are ones that actually don't make me cry. Like a movie like Grave of the Fireflies doesn't really tear me up or make me cry at all, but it lingers for me in a very different way. Hamnet was kind of similar to that. Like I didn't have that kind of emotional tear-inducing release with this movie at all, but there were aspects of it that did linger in kind of painful ways, and sometimes I find that to be a more powerful gesture.
And JD had enough of a reaction for both of you, so you're good.
He had enough. He had enough.
It was a rough night for JD.
Just watch this next year and then come back to me. You'll have a very different reaction. I can promise you that.
Watch me come back a year later and say, actually, this movie stinks. I doubt that I will. I'm not going to be that cynical about it.
No, I mean,
it's a good movie. Really good movie.
I have admitted this a million times, but and it somewhat circles back to a conversation I feel like we had last week when we were defending Marty Supreme and the final scene to that film. When you become a parent, you change, like psychologically, physiology, like you change. You become a completely different person, and it happens instantaneously. Like there's just nothing you can do to prepare for it. And you do see the world in a completely different way. I don't know if I would have responded to Grave and to this film 10, 20 years ago the same way. Probably not. But I watched Grave of the Fireflies, and Sam was a year old. And the girl that dies in that film is like 3. So I was primed for that kind of emotional reaction. And how old is Hamnet in this film? 10? Guess how old Sam is?
It's close to that. Yeah, right. He's 9.
He turned 10 in October. Yeah.
Oh, he turned 10. Okay.
These movies are out to get you, man. This is.
So I'm just like, it is. I am very much prime for this kind of film, given where I'm at. And again, I can understand why others don't if they don't have the same experiences. I certainly don't blame people for that at all. But I do think that you do see the world in a different way when you do become a parent, and I understand why people are having the reactions they do. But on the same token, I can understand the other side of that dichotomy, because you get a film like The Testament of Anne Lee, for example, and while I did respond to its tragedy in a Hamnet-like way, there's other aspects to that film that don't work for me that in the end, I have a Dave-like Hamnet reaction to it overall.
Sure.
Easy.
So
I don't know that I want to be known as.
All right, we're gonna get that patented now. If you don't respond to a movie emotionally, you pulled a Dave.
You pulled a Dave. Yeah, exactly. I pulled the Dave with The Testament of Anne Lee, at least in some ways. And like I still like that film a lot, much like Dave talked about with Hamnet. I like The Testament of Anne Lee. It's not in my top 20, but I do really like the film a lot. And when it's great, when it's channeling its Hamnet-like energies, that's when that film is at its best for me. I just feel like it flounders in other ways. Hamnet for me is just the entire package. It never floundered the way that film did for me.
For sure.
And again, when you couple that with how it uses art, how it interprets art, as we talked about in part 1, then it just adds to its complexities. And it just goes beyond its emotion. That film is way more than just its emotion. And again, to echo it one more time, and I know we're rambling on here, so I'll end here. Hamnet is a film that is not about death. It is, but that is a film that is also about life and celebrating life. And that I think is important. And I just don't think that's getting talked about as much. But that's what I love about those performances as well.
It's a good movie.
Anyway, Hamnet, my number 7. All right, let's move on to number 6. Dave, what do you have at number 6?
All right, so number 6, there's a movie we've already talked about. It Was Just an Accident, from Jafar Panahi. I kind of adore this movie. I think it's we've talked about the courage of the director making the movie and eventually returning to his home country to be imprisoned. But there's also a really brave story being told here through its characters. JD already, I think, talked about a little bit about what this movie is about. The interesting thing about this movie to me is it's really about, can you take that step? And what does that mean if you do? What does that mean about you if you strike back against those who struck against you? I think in many cases we are taught to think that's fine. That's what you should do. You should defend yourself. But what does that do to your soul if you sink to that level? Is that okay? And the movie doesn't necessarily answer that question. It lets you think about it. And my hot take on this movie is that I think our lead character knows exactly who that is from the very beginning.
Yeah.
They make a big deal about, like, I'm going to bring in all these other people and I'm going to, I got to be sure. I think he's sure. And I think he's trying to stop himself from taking that step because he wants to do that. And I think he doesn't like the fact that he has that violence inside him, because it's much easier to look at the person who did this to you as evil and keep yourself separate if you don't have the desire to strike back. And I think that's a really interesting way that this movie gets set up. It's also really funny. It's a little bit of a comedy of errors in some moments.
I don't know if I call it playful, but it does have a playful energy at times.
It absolutely does. And I think it's really interesting that the movie eventually gets to the point where they almost strike back.
Yeah.
They basically attempt to, like, we're going to put the fear of God in you and then we're going to leave. And in a lesser film with the lesser filmmaker, they would leave, they would walk off into the sunset and the movie would end. Like, oh, they did the right thing. They didn't sink to the level of their torturer. They didn't kill him, even though everyone watching this movie, there's a part of you, I think, that has that bloodlust as you watch this movie and you're like, just do it. Just kill him, because look at the terrible things he did. He ruined your lives. The regime ruined your lives, but he was the weapon of the regime. Totally understandable that you would strike back. Instead, they all walk away. And instead of ending the movie there, we talked about, the most haunting squeak in cinema history. Yeah. And the way this movie ends, like, JD, you said one of the best endings of this year. I could not disagree with you more. This is the best ending of this year, and it is not particularly close. It is incredible. I watched this and I just sat there as the credits rolled, like, kind of shaking.
Yeah.
By the way this film ends. Because if you have, joy in your heart, you could lie to yourself and say, like, he's just imagining it, because you don't actually see him. You don't actually see him return. The camera's just focused on your lead character and him reacting to that sound. And that is enough for you to know exactly what is happening. The movie is built in such a way that the squeak of that false leg is an important sound. And you mentioned the sound design of this movie is impeccable. And it needs to be for that final scene to work. And I just think this movie is truly incredible, a real piece of art. And I really hope that all these award shows don't somehow forget this movie. Because again, this is a great year for international film.
Yeah.
Depending on my mood, I could pick 3 or 4 other international films and maybe leave It Was Just an Accident out. And that's how good it is, because this is one of my top 10 movies of the year. But it's a really good year for international film. But this is the type of filmmaking that we really need to reward, especially in this country, especially in 2026. It could not be more timely given what's going on, not only in our country, but in his country of origin.
Yeah. And what I love about this movie as well, and we talked about this quite a bit, JD, I think when we reviewed the movie, we sort of made the indirect comparison to something like, it's going to be a weird comparison, but something like Martin Scorsese's Silence, which was a passion project for him. Yeah. But imagine if he made that movie back in the 80s when he initially had planned, back when he was maybe a little bit more, I don't want to say immature, but a bit more narrow-minded in his viewpoints about religious faith. for instance. But the fact that he waited to make that movie allowed that movie to feel more nuanced and complicated. And it was the product of a man that was willing to challenge his own beliefs in the process. And that's essentially what Jafar Panahi is doing here. If he had made this movie quite some years ago, this movie may have been 5 minutes long and it would have been bloodlust. Like it may have been. Right. I obviously don't say that factually because I don't know for sure. I don't know the man, but I can only assume that he was in a very different headspace some years ago. And here he is now willing to wrestle with his own vengeful spirit in a way and sort of challenge that and ask himself if that was really the right thing. It's a movie about looking in the mirror, and you certainly feel that. And that's why it's a very powerful film.
Yep. Totally agree. And that's exactly why it was in my top 10 as well. And like, I love that personal touch from Panahi. And you are right. I love that it's not as vengeful as it could have been. We would have all understood if this was revenge porn, the movie.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just not. And,
Jafar Panahi had every opportunity to make his version of Taken, but he doesn't do that.
And every reason to.
Yeah, every reason to. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And one of the best. Absolutely love it. All right.
Yeah.
Brendan.
So I guess that's my number 6 now. And I'll keep the theme of international cinema representation going with a film that maybe about a week ago or so was nowhere near my top 10. But it's a film that has been rising and lingering for quite some time, especially since JD and I just reviewed it about a week ago. And that is The Voice of Hin Rajab, which is my number 6. Directed by Kauchar Banhania, depicting the real life efforts of the Red Crest volunteers who received this emergency call from a young 5-year-old girl named Hin Rajab, which actually utilizes the real life recording of this young girl and dramatizes the experience using actors of how they went about trying to save her. So it becomes this really interesting amalgamation of dramatization and documentary without feeling like a reenactment, which is something we often criticize many documentaries of doing that are very either historical or political in some way. And by doing so, Banhania makes a movie that is ultimately one of the most thrilling procedurals of the year, maybe even of the past few years. I was reminded a lot of movies like All the President's Men while watching this. It's not about journalism, obviously, but it does kind of have an almost journalistic-like thriller energy to it. Just people in an office trying to do their best job and being torn between what is right and what they're being told to do. And I love the humanity behind all of that. One thing I didn't really highlight enough during part 1 of this award show, and I'm kind of regretting this a little bit, I was almost tempted to include Saja Kalani in my list for Best Supporting Actress, who plays the Rana Hassan figure here. And the way that she communicates with young Hin Rajab in an almost motherly way, it does what I usually love movies like this to do when there isn't really any literal history spelled out for us. Sometimes a performance allows you to infer certain things about what this character or person might actually have in their home life. And I felt like she was bringing some type of untold motherly instincts to this that made me sort of think about what her home life might be and why it's trickling into her job in this way. And the way that all of these people are trying to find like this balance between their home life and their work life here, given this devastating situation, and the blending of all of that is really powerful. Like I said, it's a movie that's been lingering for me since I saw it. When I first saw it, I think I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, but now I'm really realizing I'm underselling it.
Now it's number 6 on your list.
Well, it just goes to show how fragmented this movie or this year kind of is as far as movies. And I think I just have a lot of respect for a movie like this that isn't afraid to shy away from some political truth and how hard that truth is to hear. It's willing to give us the actual audio file, and it's willing to allow us to hear it. That is a very brave gesture, and because oftentimes we want to maybe criticize movies for being a bit too on the nose in that way, that we think that they should tone those things down. And I love that we're
sorry,
as you should.
Keep it safe. That's what we have to do here. But I love that this movie is willing to kind of force us to participate in what is actually going on in the world. And sometimes there's an argument to that as well. And I think this movie makes that argument very well.
Yeah, this one is just outside my top 20. Probably the hardest watch of the year.
It's devastating. Yeah,
really. I mean, that's the right word. It's completely devastating, and but it's important to watch films like this because I think it's very easy for us in our privileged space as, you know, a bunch of white guys living in the United States. It's very easy to ignore that if we want to.
Yeah.
And the way that this movie is structured and using the actual recordings, you know, there are some people that I've read some reviews of who were very upset by that, felt that it was like kind of, you know, trauma porn and manipulative. And I can understand that because you are,
I guess, yeah.
you are, I mean, you're listening to a child die. I mean, that is what the structure of this film is. But that one actress that you mentioned, I thought she gave just a stunner of a performance. Like it's a really measured performance because it would be really easy to go over the top with the emotion. And she mostly keeps it in, but it's almost like you could see it leaking out. And the way, as you mentioned, she talks to her in this very maternal way is completely heart-wrenching. It's a really wonderful film. And I hope a lot of people see it because it needs to be seen.
Yeah. And I think what's great about this film and what you're saying there, Dave, as far as the filmmaking tactics, how it could feel manipulative, I don't know if Ben-Hadia would agree with this, but given how brazen the filmmaking is here, I do wonder if that's kind of the point. If because this is such a weirdly divisive topic, genocide. Who would have thought? It's divisive.
Shocking,
but it is. And I think she simply wants to highlight that this is real. Yeah. This isn't a talking point on a television show or in the news. This is what's happening. And she simply lays out, this is how these people are dying. And they're caught in the crosshairs. They're under fire, very literally, and people cannot get to them. They cannot get to them in any way, shape, or form. And in order to get to them, there's all this red tape that you got to deal with. Otherwise, we're bombing ambulances and trucks left and right, which is crazy. It's crazy that that's what they're targeting. And so the whole point of this film is to stand on a soapbox and bang pots and pans as loud as possible to get your attention. Yeah, so yes, of course it's going to be manipulative in that regard. It wants you to pay attention because it's so easy, to your point, to sit here and live our lives comfortably without ever thinking about what's going on over there.
Absolutely.
This movie is basically turning us into Josh O'Connor and the Mastermind if we refuse to listen, is basically what's happening here.
Yeah, exactly. Just completely delirious and oblivious to everything going around us. Absolutely.
Yep.
Good stuff. Really like that film a lot as well. My number 6, I'm going to The World of Bygone. Resurrection, the wonderful Chinese film, is my number 6.
I was hoping this wasn't in your top 10. It makes me feel more guilty for not seeing it yet.
Look, once you see it, we could have a conversation about it. I think it's worth diving more into.
Podcast on its own. Good Lord.
Really. I mean, this is an extraordinary piece of filmmaking. It's almost hard to talk about, but it's this strikingly beautiful dreamscape about broken people finding healing in dreams and in cinema. It weaves time and history and the evolution of film in this way that is nothing short of sublime. I noted this a little bit in part 1, but to reiterate, it's structured into 6 chapters, with each sequence paying homage to different eras of cinema, as well as incorporating one of the 6 senses recognized in Buddhist thought: sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch, and mind. So the first chapter is a full-on, legit silent film with genuine intertiles, the whole 9 yards.
God, it rules.
And it's incredible. It is so good. Remarkable. These great black and gray hues just all over every frame. It is incredible to watch. The second chapter is a film noir murder mystery smothered in a vibrant blue color palette. And that sequence is mystifying and diverting in a way, but also poignant and mysterious. It's really incredible. Then you get to the third chapter, which is reminiscent of new wave cinema and the rise of slow cinema, as our central character finds himself at this temple. And as a fan of slow cinema, I was quite intrigued by how this one unfolds. It's really, really beautiful. Then you get to the fourth chapter, which harkens back to the new Hollywood era, or even the 90s indie movement in some ways. It's this great pseudo father-daughter dynamic at play as they try to trick these mobsters out of money. And there's an element of surrealism to it and supernaturalism to it. It's really, really great. And then you get to the fifth chapter, which transports us to a modern vampire movie that's soaked in red blood hues. It's also a 30-minute one-take shot. It's incredibly evocative. It is one of the most stunning sequences in all of movies in 2025. It's incredible. And then the last chapter is this beautiful coda that suggests it's better to die in dreams and in the hope of cinema than it is to be alive, living some sort of hollow life. It is incredible. That's my best way at articulating it, but it's just one of those movies that you have to see. This is real poetry in motion. Every frame is painted with breathtaking detail. Again, as I noted in our InSession Film Awards, I had this for best cinematography. It wasn't particularly close. This is superstar cinema in terms of cinematography and framing and composition, like flexing their muscles in the best way possible. I absolutely love it. We didn't really talk about Jackson Yee in part one, but he is our central character who plays all of these different roles throughout the film. And he is really, really, really good. Probably should have considered him in some way, shape, or form, to be honest, now that I think about it. But he's fantastic throughout the entire film. And I love it. I mean, I don't know what else there is to say about this film. Just go see it, experience it. It's one of those movies you have to see. But, be patient with it. Just have fun with it being this ode to cinema.
All right.
It's a real treat.
I'll see it soon. Stop yelling at me.
All I know is, JD, I'm really glad that you fell on the sword of trying to describe this movie. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Glad that was not up to me. I think you handled that very well. This was my number 13 movie this year. It's pretty incredible stuff. And it is a movie that definitely could rise on rewatch. It's just, I think when I reviewed it on Letterboxd, I said something like, there's way too much here for me to even dive into after one viewing. Like it's not a movie. If you tell me you understood everything in this movie on first watch, I do not believe you. Shut up. Stop lying. That is just not the truth. Because as you mentioned, there's so much to it. Like, I mean, that opening sequence alone, when I first started watching, I'm like, is this a 3-hour silent film? Is that what's happening? Like, why didn't anyone tell me what I was coming into here? But all of those sequences are wonderful, but the final sequence is what got me surprise when you're talking about like the power of cinema and dreams, and of course that's right up my alley. Really, really excellent film.
And that's why I spent a few minutes just talking about what the experience is and what it looks like, because to sit here and talk about what the movie is actually about,
everything,
I need to see it another 2 or 3 times before I can get to that point.
And I haven't seen the film, so I can't speak to it in this way. But sometimes I actually appreciate movies that aren't really about something underneath those kind of vibes, right? Sometimes a movie is really all about just trying to create an experience that you waft in. And sometimes that's okay. Sometimes that's okay, right?
Yeah. Well, and the thing, I do think there is something here to the film.
Yeah.
It's just
for sure.
Really
because maybe it's
hard
not
to
prioritizing
fully...
that as much, or like it's more interested in...
I think that
there's just so many layers going on.
There's so much to it, and when you're immersed in its filmmaking the way that you are, that first experience, you're just going to be blown away by the filmmaking. The cinematics of it all are, again, it's extraordinary. But there is a lot here as far as broken people finding healing in dreams in cinema, and how that tailors to a lot of what we've been talking about as far as art as this way of seeing the world. There's a lot to that here. Now, the nuances around that idea, that I have to sit on a little bit. I need to contemplate that more to fully articulate it, and probably see the film another 2 or 3 times. I do think there is a lot to it there, but I've only seen the film the one time, so I can't really speak to it. But that's why I'm excited to see this film more, and why this film could rise the ranks even further on this list, because I've barely began to crack the code in terms of its thematic richness, even though I do think it's there. I do see it. I just haven't been able to wrap my finger around it fully.
Yeah.
But the filmmaking itself is good enough that I'm comfortable having this where I do on my list.
When I finally get a chance to see it, which will hopefully be pretty soon, do you think it's one that's actually worth doing an official review on? Kind of like, because we've sometimes done that, right? We've sometimes,
and that might help. Yeah.
And we've sometimes done that with movies that are still after our award show that we'll still give a full review to, because we know it's worth talking about it more than we have the time and effort to on an award show like this. So maybe this is one that we'll actually put on our docket.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'd be fun to talk about, and a lot of the time, especially when you're wrestling with the movie, it helps articulate some of those, gaps. So yeah, for sure, we can definitely do that. All right, that is our number 6. We are now to the top 5, fellas. I hope you're ready. Our top 5 movies
Halfway home.
2025. Dave, what do you got at number 5?
All right, number 5, I have Ava Victor's Sorry Baby. This was a movie I was, again, lucky enough to see in a theater, which I was shocked I was going to be able to, given where I live. And all I really knew about it was that it was a movie about trauma, which I was like, cool, good time out for me. I love movies about trauma. I actually do. So I was like ready for this, I thought. I was not prepared for this. Ava Victor, we have talked about. One to watch is not a strong enough term. I am like chomping at the bit for the next thing that she does. Yeah. I think she is a insane talent as a director, as a writer, as an actor, which of course she does she wears all of those hats in this movie. And one of the things I love about it is that it is a movie about trauma that doesn't wallow in the vivid descriptions of said trauma. It is not, it's a movie about a sexual assault, but it's not something that revels in the violence of that. When that scene happens, basically you see the outside of a house for a long time, and then you see her leave. And in some ways, that's enough for you to understand some of what has happened. But the way that is detailed, there's a scene between Ava Victor and Naomi Ackie that is one of the best moments on film that I've ever experienced in talking about trauma and sexual assault. It is one of the best expressions of true friendship that I have seen on screen in quite a long time, because if you have never had a discussion with someone who has been sexually assaulted, you're lucky. Or maybe that there are people that have gone through that and you have not been in a trusted position to have to be there for that moment. That moment in the film where Naomi Akkie's character doesn't press, she just sits there with her. She holds that space with her and lets her explain it the best way that she can. It's just beautiful. And it's one of those moments in cinema of this year that I constantly go back to because it's so underplayed and so real. And we also talked about in our last episode that another ending I really like this year is the ending of this film. That, the actual sorry baby sequence happens. And it's interesting because it's a movie that delves into the emotion without making a show of itself. It doesn't have her openly weeping. It doesn't have her processing in a way that we've seen before. One of the ways that she processes in this movie is talking to this infant and saying that essentially life is hard. And I hope nothing terrible happens to you, but bad things will happen.
Yeah.
Because we're human and bad things happen to all of us. But the most important thing is that we're there for one another. And even if this baby at this point cannot process any of this, its brain is not built in a way yet to know that it's being taken care of, it is still getting those emotions. It's still getting that love from her. And that is the first time in the movie that the lead character, aside from the cat that she adopts, that she's able to really express love in a genuine way. She's able to accept it from other people, but it's hard for her to open herself up enough because of everything that's happened to her. And it also has one of the best single scenes of the year with her and John Carroll Lynch. John Carroll Lynch, who evidently can only play the nicest man in the world or a serial killer. Like those are the two, like nothing in between. He's either like the husband from Fargo or the damn Zodiac.
And
like,
I was just thinking those two examples as you made that analogy.
It's it. But he's
was he
good.
on your list for Impact?
He was.
He was. Okay. I was trying to remember.
Yeah, absolutely. He
what
was
moment.
one of the him and Bridget Everett were the two that like really hit.
That's right.
For sure. But yeah, he's great. The movie's great. It is it's a movie that of course is not a big movie. It's clearly made on a shoestring budget, but it doesn't need to be showy. I think that is something that makes it better, is that it's kind of an insulated movie. But Ava Victor is a supreme talent, and I absolutely cannot wait to see what she does next or what they do next.
Yeah. Very good movie. This again just speaks to the plethora of great movies and how widespread that it is when I have something as great as this at maybe, I don't know, like number 23 or something like that. But again, this gets back to something we sort of alluded to before, that these lists are time capsules for us.
Yeah.
And for me, at least, something I usually try to do is really treat it as a time capsule by not giving these movies that many rewatches if I can help it. So that way I feel very fresh on each of them almost equally. So then when I do start giving them rewatches, I could start seeing which ones will shift and how those lists will change because of these new perspectives and these new familiarities that I'm starting to bring to it. I can only imagine a movie like Sorry Baby is one that does get better as you view it, because I do think, to your point, Dave, it is one of the best endings of the year for sure.
I'm like practically throwing this movie at people. Like everyone I talk to is like, go watch Sorry Baby.
And
so
Julia
Roberts.
I was just going to say, Julia Roberts.
Yeah. I know. We should just insert that clip here.
Yeah.
Let that play for the next 10 minutes.
That is how you sell a movie.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know what the term is. I feel like we should coin some phrase for that spot on your list that haunts you at night because math is what it is and there's 10 slots, but you have 15 films you're trying to cram into 10 spots. That's Sorry Baby. This is number 11. But
wow,
I
that's
feel about it the same way I do any of these movies we're talking about tonight. Like it's a top 10 film as far as I'm concerned, but there's like math is what it is, and that's why math
22 top 10 films this year.
But yeah, I love everything that you're saying. I mean, that's a film that thrives in the passage of time and the profound insight that is cultivated as it relates to guilt. And it leads to one of the best endings of the year. And I agree with everything that you had to say about how that unfolds there. It's a great sequence. And as heartbreaking as the film is at times, I do love the blistering humor of the film. I mean, maybe the most impressive thing about Sorry Baby is the tonal precision that Ava Victor brings to this film. It is unreal how she's able to thread that needle here. It is truly impressive stuff.
Yeah,
my
great
God.
stuff.
Is that her first screenplay? Is that her first?
I don't know about screenplay.
If it is, that's crazy. Like that's
absolutely wild. And then to navigate that as a director to make sure those tones come across seamlessly. I mean,
it is their only
unreal.
Screenplay. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Unreal.
Oh my God. Like,
yeah.
Jeez. It just makes you wonder, like, how many years has this been building? Like,
Yeah.
is this something she just wrote a year and a half ago, or is something they've been working on for like 7 or 8 years? Because it feels so polished.
Yeah. That's like, how did this come about? Because it's their first directorial effort and screenplay, but also here's a few $1,000,000 to make this. Like, how does that happen?
Right.
Ava Victor's also younger.
Good.
Yeah. Ava Victor's also younger than all of us, and here we are just simply talking about movies as opposed to making them.
Crazy. $1.5 million budget. How in the world did that come together? I don't know the story there. I'm sure there's a story.
The script was that good.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I'm glad that it did.
And I do see here that Ava Victor shadowed Jane Schoenbrunn during the production of I Saw the TV Globe.
Oh yeah, we talked about
Baby.
We talked about that. I think. I think when we reviewed Sorry Baby, we acknowledged it. I forgot. Yeah, you're right. Thanks for that. That
makes sense.
Another one
to why this film is so great.
Another one in my top 10 from last year. So
exactly.
Yeah.
That's quintessentially
type,
when I talk about 2024 being a film that's just full of these great indie gems. Like that's what we're talking about. Great stuff. All right. Brendan, we're at your number 5. Is that where we're at here?
Yeah, we're at my number 5, and I'll.
Where are we? What's happening?
What's
happening?
We're talking about movies.
I'm so
apparently.
lost now.
I get it.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about the monkey next. No, I'm not going to do that.
That would be a surprise.
I'm going to talk about a movie that is clearly a Brendan pick, and my list would not be complete without a movie like Train Dreams. So that's my number 5 pick here. I admit I'm emotionally susceptible to movies like this, depicting rural simplicity and beauty in the mundane in some way, and this movie is very much about that. I am not going to talk about its discourse. I'm not going to talk about any comparisons some people have made to Terrence Malick, which I think are kind of futile, if I'm being honest. But what I love about the movie itself here, this beautiful film from Clint Bentley, is that it feels like such a blank canvas of a movie, which often can be a bit of a negative for certain movies that are very much built on characterization. But this movie is going for something very different. There's a stillness to it that kind of makes you identify with Joel Edgerton's character here, as if you're projecting yourself into his narrative, the character of Robert Grainer. It's almost as if you're looking at like an old family photo album, and you're maybe interjecting yourself into what their stories may have been and trying to fill the lines in, fill in those gaps of not every piece of information that you know about or that you've been told. And it gives this movie an almost mythological aura. Like it's all based on myth and legend in a way, which I think is something relatable for all of us when we look at not just our own family histories, but the banality of what we've all contributed to each of our respective worlds, our stories. It may seem banal, but there's a ripple effect that occurs. Everything that we touch leaves some type of story behind, even as simple as nailing a pair of shoes to a tree. There's a story there. It's a simple gesture. It might look like it means absolutely nothing, but there's a reason for that. And every little nuance, every little banal detail tells a great story. And this is a movie that's all about the grandness and the smallness, which is why I love that ending so much. It's interesting. It was not on my bingo card that Joel Edgerton would be the one to rival Tom Cruise in the biplane stunt for me. But yeah.
Oh Lord!
in a very different way, but the
very
way
different plane stunt,
but in a way that's all about taking it all in, which is ultimately what that final scene is all about, and recognizing the beauty in those simplicities. And I was very much moved by it.
Do we think it was the same plane? Does the plane?
I really hope so. I hope so.
Wouldn't that be really funny?
That would be so cool if that was the case. Like that's yeah.
This is a great movie. I have this at number 18 on my list. I very much echo a lot of what you're saying there, Brennan. I like this film. I weirdly has been criticized for being a little hollow and cloying, but I think this is a film that thrives because of its simplicity.
I agree.
It's a movie that aims to make you feel. It's not a thorough investigation into emotional complexity. There are other films we've talked about tonight that is very much that. And I think this film is quite affecting at what it's trying to do. And I think Joel Edgerton gives one of the best performances of the year. Certainly why I had him nominated for Best Actor.
Yeah, watching Robert Grainer on screen made me think about like what was maybe, I don't know, like what was maybe my grandfather's story, you know, a grandfather that I never even had a chance to meet. And I was kind of thinking about those things. And a great movie allows you to participate as if it's also your story. And I think this one's intentionally doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's a movie I'm very close to loving. I'm not quite there. It's like number 25 for me this year. I like it a great deal. The thing I find most interesting about it is that it's essentially about a movie about a man who doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Not really, not in the grand scheme of things. We're so used to movies about great men and great women and making and changing the world. And this is about
like The Mastermind. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. But this is more about following a man as the world changes around him and he doesn't really keep up.
Yeah.
And what an interesting way to kind of look at a changing world. And I do think Edgerton is really good here. I think he was on my like kind of short list. He was like in my top 10 performances this year. And this is a performance that I wish would get attention at award shows because it's very subtle. It's a tough performance in a lot of ways. It's not showy. So you're not, when they still did Oscar clips, like what Oscar clip would you show for Joel Edgerton? Which shot of him walking through the woods would you choose? Like, it's just, it's also like just a beautiful looking movie. One of the best looking movies of the year. Really, really stunning cinematography here. But yeah, really good movie.
Yeah. And to your point about how he's a man who is unable to keep up with an evolving world around him, I think what's interesting about the film is that it suggests that there doesn't have to necessarily be this huge boom in technology. I think that's what's interesting about Arn in this film is that he lives in a world where technology has advanced maybe a little bit, but it's not nearly the world that we see at the end of the film. For example, Arn simply lives in the Wild West, so to speak, but similarly at the end of his life, he talks about how he can't keep up with everybody else. Like there's something about time and aging that just catches up to everybody.
Well, I think that's what makes the time period of this movie so crucial and why the setting is often maybe seen as the main character in some ways, because Robert Grainer and what he actually does for an occupation as a logger, you find out later in life that much of his work was futile. It actually meant nothing. It all got overtaken by technology and then essentially falls by the wayside. And there's a lot of pain in how he has to interpret that and realize that maybe there's a lot of loneliness that comes with that now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Really beautiful movie. I really like it a lot as well. Great stuff there. My number 5, this is a movie that has been discussed already, but I am going to echo a lot of what you guys have already said because I have sentimental value here at number 5 for me. And as I noted in part 1, this film is the entire package for me. It is a JD buffet through and through. It is this deeply poignant examination on the connection between parents and children and shared grief, thus the theme of 2025. And we all love that. And then Trier expertly ciphers that idea through art and history in this all-encompassing way that gives context to the kind of trauma that defines our central family and how art has become their coping mechanism, as you guys wonderfully talked about already. And in the end, it echoes the likes of Gavin O'Connor's Warrior. Got to bring that up once again, because we have a drunken father at the center of a sibling relationship where his exploits bring them together in a beautiful moment of catharsis and finding closure, a theme that I've rambled on incessantly about over the history of this show. And throughout a lot of the film, we discover Gustav's childhood experiences, how that informed a lot of his emotional baggage, which then reinforces the volatility in his 2 daughters, and ultimately the catharsis that comes about through art as a means for healing. And I think one of my favorite things about Gustav is that he's someone who would not tell you how he feels. But the beauty of art and film is that it allows us to see the world through the eyes of others, to see different perspectives, to have a conversation with the audience, or in the case of this film, his lead actress. and how Nora and Gustav communicate in those final moments, not through dialogue, but through art and expression, is astonishing. It is absolutely incredible. And to me, there is healing taking place there in some way. That's what I choose to believe. And I was floored with that final sequence, as you guys talked about earlier. And then there's the performances at the center of this film. I agree with you, Dave. Nominate all of them. They should all be nominated. This should be up for best casting.
Yeah.
I don't know what SAG is smoking. Those, I don't even want to get into it. But these performances should absolutely be nominated. They're extraordinary. And again, I love the storytelling here. I think it's a masterclass in storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
I love the ambiguity of it all. I love how it doesn't hold your hand. And I love the way it flashbacks to reinforce what these characters are experiencing. I deeply love it. Sentimental value, my number 5.
Good movie.
Yep.
Turns out, really good movie. Some of the best scenes of the year. All right. Number 4. Dave, what do you got at number 4?
All right. So now we get to the point in the show where any of the following movies could easily be my number 1. This is where it got really difficult for me.
Okay.
Number 4 is The Secret Agent. I love this movie. And when I watched it once, I liked it a lot. When I watched it twice, I fell completely in love with it. I think Wagner Moura's performance is the best performance of the year by anyone. I think it's really startlingly good. I don't know. Maybe I just need to watch more Brazilian movies, because the last 2 years, my best actress and my best actor have both been from movies from Brazil. But this is really, in some ways, more interesting to me than a movie like I'm Still Here. I'm Still Here was a movie about Brazilian people who were attacked because they were connected politically in one way or another. The Secret Agent is much more innocent than that. He's not, the character is not a man who is like, I'm going to stand up for what's right and I'm a political activist. That's not what happens. We talked about it on the last episode, but he does the unthinkable. He defends his wife from an entitled jerk. It just so happens that entitled jerk has governmental connections in a time where it was really, really dangerous to go against people with governmental connections. And as I mentioned on the last episode, Moura does everything in this movie. He plays one character, but he plays about 9 sides to that character. And you don't really understand all that he is until the movie wraps up, until it connects with his own son after his death. And I really like the structure of this movie in the kind of the two timelines we have going on. We have, our lead character story, but then we also have people in the future who are listening to these recordings of him and trying to piece it all together. And it's really smart because they're trying to piece it together, and so are we. Like, as the movie's going, we're like, wait, what's happening? And how are these things connected? And who are we hiding from? Like, there's a lot of things that are unknown. And then they have these moments in the movie. One of the funniest scenes of the year is the sequence of the disembodied leg.
It's wild. It's wild.
And it's seemingly out of nowhere in this movie. And I laughed out loud by myself watching this because it's so shocking and so silly and so over the top, but it all kind of comes together in an interesting way. If you talk about his relationship with his son and his son desperate to see Jaws, and all the ways the sharks are connected in this movie. I just think this movie is expertly crafted, brilliantly directed, and not just Wagner Moura, but everyone. Like, I could talk about best cast for this one too. Some really interesting characters here that you don't necessarily see in a lot of American movies, and they all have their role to play. And like, it feels like you could make a 2-hour movie about any of them and you would be perfectly happy to watch that. But what put it over the top for me is that chase sequence in the middle of this movie, where the contract killers are after him, and then they end up being after the guy that they hire. That whole sequence, like just in terms of staging, is like, oh my God, I need to watch more of this guy's movies because he really knows what he's doing. This is a movie I just really, really adore. And it's a movie I brought some friends over to watch. And
Nice.
and they didn't have as positive a reaction as I did.
No kidding. I was waiting for that shoe to drop.
And it was just like, oh man, well, okay. And it was kind of like Hamnet for me, where they're like, I see why you like it so much. I'm just like not there. And I'm like, well, sucks to be you, because this movie rules. So that's my number 4 movie of the year, is The Secret Agent. It's just really, really excellent stuff. In a year of great international film, this one is the best for me.
Nice. I think what's interesting about this film is that I listened to you talk there, Dave, and I'm nodding along, agreeing wholeheartedly with everything that you're saying. This is number 4 on your list. Could not disagree literally with the word you said. Number 19 on my list. Like, just
like, yeah, that is great. Barely top 20.
But like, again, I think it just speaks to the prowess of this year, especially up at the top, how many great movies there are. And it literally just comes down to subjective preference at that point, and what movies moved me the most. But I don't disagree with anything that you're saying there. I think it is incredible. And I think the one thing that comes to mind with this film that we haven't discussed yet on this show or in part 1, and I think I've overlooked this film a little bit, because The Secret Agent actually does kind of belong in that 2025 trend of films trying to kill me, but in a subtle, different way, where something like Hamnet and The Chronology of Water and Ann Lee and Diamond, like those were a little bit more obvious. The Secret Agent is devastating in the sense that Marcello's family convictions create this turmoil that creates a bit of a gap where he can't be with his son all of the time, even though he comes back and he tries to form this relationship. And throughout the film, we keep getting these moments where his son is wanting to spend time with them, is wanting to be with them. But because of the political survival element of the movie, he can't always be around, but he's getting these drawings from his son and these letters. And then we get that reveal at the end when we find out what happened to Marcello. And then we get the coda, which I think is absolutely devastating when we hear him talk about how he doesn't really remember his father all that much.
Yeah.
That it was something that just wasn't a big part of his life because he was so young when all of this went down. And there is something incredibly tragic about that I think rivals a lot of those other aforementioned movies as far as parenthood and grief and how that manifests. So I do think it very much fits that trend in that regard. And it is deeply moving. And it's why I love the movie so much, and certainly goes back to that idea of how so interchangeable these lists are, how they're always changing and evolving. Will The Secret Agent rise this list for me as time goes on? Probably, likely, because it's always changing. But again, regardless of where it ranks, just in terms of the film and its effectiveness, I think it's really great. And I especially love that angle of that movie.
Yeah. And I think the thing that sticks with me most, and again, this is a personal thing, right? Your own connections to it. This is essentially about a man who, one of the things he's searching for is some record that his mother existed. Like he just wants a piece of paper to show that, like, this is real. This is a woman who existed in the world, and I need to have that. And I connected to that very deeply because, like, you know, this is what I'll tell you. If you have people that you love in your life and family like that, save everything. Save the recordings, even if they seem like they're not important. Because all I have in terms of like video or audio recordings of my dad are 2 voicemails that are about nothing, you know, and I would kill to have video and audio of his voice, just so I could remember exactly what he sounded like. And there is a power to the record. And that is also something another character is giving to his son by the end of this movie. It's like, here is a USB with your father's life, with what he sacrificed, with what he was going through. And you can finally connect with him in ways that you never could before. And that's beautiful. I love that.
Incredible. Ending. I agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. I've
been remaining very quiet here. Do I want to talk about it now or should I wait? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to break the structure once again, JD. The rhythm here talking about this movie has just been so beautiful that I just have to chime in and talk about it now because that's what I feel like we're doing. This is my number 3. So it's in my top 3. It's not quite number 4, which I almost wanted to shift it to number 4 just to keep the trajectory going and make this as efficient as possible. But no, this is my number 3. It's one of my favorite movies of the year for everything that you guys are talking about. It is a movie about memory, and Wagner Moura has talked about that when he won Best Actor at the Golden Globes for this, which I was really happy to see. And you make a great point, JD, that there actually is a lot. There's a lot you can compare to with this movie when compared to movies like The Testament of Anne Lee or Hamlet that are perhaps more visual examples of one of 2025's biggest themes on childhood trauma as it relates to parenthood. But there's something devastating about The Secret Agent in that it's all about the unseen depiction of that and how it becomes forgotten. That final coda of this movie where Fernando has, I believe that's his son. His name's Fernando, if I'm not mistaken. Once again, played by Wagner Moura, really has no recollection of who his father was. And that's a very devastating notion. And the irony that he now works at this hospital that was the movie theater that he was so drawn to at a young age. I love the irony of that and the shifting of times there. It's a movie that, and I don't mean to say this as a negative because I actually think it's a plus for the movie. It's not the most politically deep or insightful movie. I mean, dictatorship bad. That's basically the theme of what the political, sociopolitical angle of this movie is. But I cannot recall a recent movie that so effectively depicted what living under that dictatorial rule may have felt like. As a vibe showcasing that particular sense of place, I think this film is absolutely stunning, and how sometimes the simplest of gestures is ultimately why you have no remaining connection with the people you love in your life. And I found that devastating. That this is ultimately just about real people. It's a movie that positions itself as, like the title suggests, a secret agent movie. And for a brief moment, it becomes a political thriller, like the title suggests, only for it to conclude in a way that completely disregards that form of genre filmmaking. Because the outcome and the way that concludes is all done off screen. It's all told to us. And something about how anticlimactic that is makes it even more devastating for me. And I love the way that Kleber Mendoza Filho plays with the genre there, which is ultimately why he was my pick for Best Director in 2025. I think it's a wonderfully crafted film. And I say this as someone who didn't even really care for Bacurau, his last film, all that much. But I loved this movie.
Nice.
Yeah. We got to stop talking about this movie because I can't be shifting the list mid-show.
Sure you can.
At least wait
sure you can.
This is done.
I approve.
No, I agree. Totally agree with everything you guys are saying. Should we just get to your number 4?
I guess so. Yeah, I didn't mean to make this too confusing, but
No,
we were on such a great rhythm with The Secret Agent. I just had to jump in, and I didn't want to wait.
Totally fine.
Okay, so we'll go to my number 4 next. We'll just have to remember that my number 3 was already talked about. My number 4 is, I think my number 4, I don't want to speak for you, Dave, but I think my number 4 might be somewhere in your top 3. You don't have to confirm or deny that just yet if you don't want to. My number 4 is Wake Up Dead Man. Which oh, no.
You don't know me.
Sure, I do.
Look, for the audio listeners out there, please go to the video for this.
That was a great reaction. Given the way you talked about that movie on our award show, I had to have expected that would have been in your top 10 somewhere.
Gosh.
But I'm actually kind of surprised I have it this high, if I'm being honest. Primarily given my relationship with the Knives Out movies in general, which I've enjoyed for the most part. I like each one a little bit more, but this one I like a lot more, to the point that it is slowly becoming my favorite Rian Johnson film. And for the longest time, I have said Brick is my favorite film of his, and it might still be his best work, but I am hard pressed to say it might be this one, mostly just given how surprised I was by it. I did not expect this to be more in line with something like Martin Scorsese's Silence or Paul Schrader's First Reformed, especially when we get to that great scene involving Luis and the phone call, which we already talked about as one of the best scenes of the year. But I do think, even taking the surprise factor further, Rian Johnson being someone that is so heavy-handed with the way he tries to subvert audience expectations and treat his sociopolitical themes, there's surprisingly a lot of nuance here for the first time. And it's one of my favorite faith-based movies in the past few decades. And I think especially in today's climate, with Catholicism being such a punching bag for religious hypocrisy and rule-making. And
something happened?
Yeah, apparently it did. I'm just assuming. I don't know that for sure. But I do think it's a brave move to depict the other side of that coin for such a denomination that maybe it will eventually start embracing goodness and grace and compassion, progressiveness, purity. Rian Johnson has grown from the one-sidedness of something like Knives Out or even Glass Onion. And I love how nuanced that this movie is. It might be, like I said, it might be his masterpiece. I really do think it's that good. And on top of it, also just simply being a fun murder mystery as well. I was genuinely surprised by this one.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's a really good movie. It's in my top 25 for the year. I think it would be higher if I felt like the murder mystery itself worked a little better. It more seems like a placeholder for him to get where he wants to get. But the rest of the stuff works so well that it kind of doesn't matter. Which it's still enjoyable. And I think Glenn Close is also really underrated in this movie. I think she's
almost a nominee for me.
Cannot believe it.
Yeah, rocket ships.
Yes. Oh my God.
It's also
so
very
funny.
It might be the funniest of the three Knives Out films. It's not as comedically playful as something like Glass Onion was. That's certainly the biggest and most obviously a comedy of the three, but I kind of like the darkness of this movie. There's a smartness to the way that he plays with humor in this one that I really did appreciate, which I think makes it the most sophisticated of these three movies for sure.
Yeah, I think I just felt like the Crisis of Faith was almost too good. It took center stage and everything else. By the end of it, I was like, I don't really care who killed him. Like, it doesn't matter to me at all.
I don't think way more interested either.
Well, see, that's
that is my only issue with it. It's you can't make a murder mystery movie and then be like, but I don't care. Okay.
I see that as I don't see that as a bug. That's the thing.
I see that as a feature too. In the same way that The Secret Agent isn't really a spy thriller, despite carrying the facade of one at times. That's why what I love about that film as a genuine Crisis of Faith movie. To me, it's one of the best movies about faith, maybe of the last decade. So I didn't really care about
Pickens, but yes.
Fair. But I think part of the charm there is you walk in expecting it to be another murder mystery movie, but it's not. It really is a movie about faith and dissecting how that looks in the modern age. And I do absolutely love that it's primarily about that, even with Benoit Blanc by the end, like even when he's revealing everything that's unfolding, it's through a lens of some sort of epiphany that he's had. And it's incredible. So it's
and I do like in general, I like the way the movie wraps up with him. You've talked about the idea of grace and allowing this individual to unburden themselves. And allowing Josh O'Connor's character to be a priest and hear her literal confession in front of everyone else. It's a beautiful movie. I like it a lot more than I thought I was going to. If you had told me before this year that the new Knives Out movie was going to be in my top 25 of the year, I'd be like, wow, it's a really bad year, huh? I don't know if I really buy that, but there it is in a good year.
Yeah. And I think you would be right if it was a genuine Knives Out movie. But I just don't see it that way. It's
totally
like it has way more in common with Silence than it does its Knives Out predecessors.
Totally.
But I'm with you. That film sits at 21 for me. Really like it a lot, though. Good stuff. All right. Number 4 for me. Let's go to the world of Timothée Chalamet, shall we? A little Marty Supreme. You guys like a little Marty Supreme?
Yeah, it's all right.
Do you like your Marty regular or Supreme? How do you
Supreme only.
Supersized.
the supersized version of it?
What is the supersized version of a Timothy Chalamet? That's still
in a lot of ways
small.
it is.
I don't know if I want to see that. I know the dessert version will be Wonka.
Yeah. little chocolate Wonka for you.
Yeah.
Marty Supreme, do really love this film. It's electric. It's propulsive. It is bursting with confidence and vibrancy. It has an energy that never dissipates. And to your point earlier, I think you talked about this, Dave. Forgive me. Maybe I'm making this up. I don't know. But it somehow turns ping pong into the most riveting sport on earth. It's quite incredible how Josh Safdie is able to achieve that. But I do love how he captures the sport in this prodigious way that's exhilarating in both action and emotion, which is obviously vital given that it's a film traversing the volatility of ambition and this deep yearning for greatness. And to see that come through in the filmmaking the way it does is quite sensational. And then there's, of course, Chalamet's performance, which brilliantly taps into that as well. I do think it is a career-defining performance for him. It is deeply engrossing, utterly captivating. And I think what really stands out is that its flashiness is born out of Chalamet letting Marty's ego and insecurity and hunger exist all at once. Ambition can be inspiring and it can be rousing, but it can equally be destructive and manipulative, a duality that is very much top of mind for this film. And I love how Chalamet lives in those gray areas. So at any given moment, Marty is charming, he's funny, he's repulsive, he's irksome, he's your best friend, he's your worst enemy. He's all of these things simultaneously. And while that will for sure lend itself to some rambunctious acting at times, it's all rooted in an emotional nuance, which is why I think that ending is so sublime. I know we've talked about it already, but it's a culmination of all of those things. A character so obsessed with greatness, achieving something of significance that it almost leaves him isolated in the end. But then through a forced humility that comes about, there is an epiphany that leads to, again, one of the best endings of the year. That endo match, the hospital sequence, looking through the glass, and a movie that is about him and his own rambunctious behavior. I think you said earlier, Dave, that in the end, it's not like his story shifts. It's not even about him anymore.
Yep.
And I nearly fell on the floor. It is really, really great. A magnetic performance you just cannot take your eyes off of. It's why I have him as my winner for Best Actor. I love the score to this film as well. It was my winner for Best Original Score. An incredible, vibrant score that matches the energy of this film. Again, one of those movies that should be up for Best Casting as well. I love Safdie's direction. Again, as wild as it is at times. And I love how he is able to build tension through the chaotic energy of this film. But I love how the film is propulsive when it needs to be, but it's also still when it needs to be. Even if that stillness is brief and fleeting, it comes at the right times, and it allows Chalamet to really dig further into that character. And it's really great. Endlessly rewatchable. I love this. My favorite Safdie film by far to this point. And again, just a career-defining performance to Chalamet.
Wait, it's better than The Smashing Machine?
Yeah, I think so. It turns out. Maybe a little bit. Hair by a smidge.
Taking a risk.
Yeah. I took a whole Smashing
shooting a fish in
Machine
a
to the
barrel there,
Smashing
Dave.
Machine.
Yeah, well.
Anyway, Marty Supreme. It rules. It's my number 4.
I guess I'll wait on this one. I don't want to get too confusing here.
Okay.
Although I have no idea what else I can say about this one now.
All right, number 3. We've already talked about Brendan's number 3.
You guys have at it.
So,
All right.
Dave,
I'll take
your
a break.
number 3.
I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Okay.
So if you had told me that this movie was going to be as low as number 3 when it was announced, I would have been shocked. Number 3 is One Battle After Another from Paul Thomas Anderson, one of my favorite working directors. I have numerous times referred to him as this generation's Stanley Kubrick, in the sense that like it's just like he only makes 5-star movies as far as I'm concerned. Like I love all of his movies. Like basically to me, the only movie of his that I would say is not on that level is his very first movie. And that's just because he was just getting started and didn't have a budget and he was just figuring stuff out. After that, I'm all in on PTA and I'm all in on One Battle After Another. I think this movie it's crazy to say this about number 3, but it's a masterpiece. It's wild. And that just goes to show you how, to borrow a term from earlier, how top heavy my list is. These like top 4 are just constantly jockeying for position. If you ask me tomorrow, maybe this is my number 1.
I agree. Yeah.
It's interesting in a lot of ways. I think it would be tempting to make a movie about revolutionaries against fascism right now and make them blameless, faultless heroes. PT has no interest in that. He does not want to make a movie where his protagonists are perfect. A lot has been made of the character of Perfidia Beverly Hills, which is just a stunner of a performance by Tiana Taylor.
Agreed.
And, of course, we have Leo in a lead role here, one of our last movie stars, and is totally willing to make himself a doofus and totally willing to, even in his heroic moments, make himself a little foolish. There is a sequence near the end of the movie where he goes to save his daughter, and he doesn't save his daughter. She saves herself. And it is a lesson in what our job is in terms of training the next generation. Sometimes it's just getting the hell out of the way and letting them take over, because we messed it up. Our generation completely screwed the pooch. And our only hope is to pass along that revolutionary nature to the next generation and teach them the lessons that we learned through the mistakes that we made, and hope that they do better. I mean, there's a reason this is called One Battle After Another. This is not a movie that is going to end with a heroic moment and everything is fine. Everything in this movie is literally one battle after another. And it is not, I don't think it's just chance that the only people who are doing real, pure revolutionary work are the non-white people in this movie. The white people keep screwing it up because that's what we do. But then when we get to Benicio del Toro's character, his plot line, that's the only time we see revolutionaries actually working together in an efficient way. And I love the fact that according to all this behind the scenes stuff, most of that stuff was not in the movie until Benicio showed up and he had some ideas, and all credit to PTA. He listened and was like,
very
okay,
collaborative in that regard.
that's a pretty good idea. Let's figure that out. And then they wrote some scenes, and those are some of the most memorable moments of the movie. It's all this stuff with Benicio. And, you have Sean Penn in an incredible performance. I think it's weirdly getting lost a little bit because of this kind of groundswell of appreciation for Del Toro, which is great because he's wonderful in the movie. But Sean Penn he's making choices, capital C choices in this movie. And they may work for you. They may not. They absolutely worked for me. I thought it was one of the best physical performances of the year. And, to have him, and then you have Leo playing this like old pothead who's, brain is screwed up because he just, he did too many drugs. Like, who among us, we get it. And, that sequence, as I talked about in the last episode, of him trying to figure out the passwords and all the answers to the right questions. And it's just beautiful and comedic and dramatic. And I haven't even talked about Chase Infinity, who gives one of the best performances of the year out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I have no idea who she was before this movie, and then she just shows up and owns the screen every second that she is on it. To me, there is not a single misstep in her performance. It's truly awe-inspiring to watch her work. That sequence where she manages to escape from the car, I guess that's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Really, really impressive stuff. Physically, emotionally, verbally, she really does it all. And it is a movie that PTA, despite the fact it kind of goes all over the place, he has complete control of this movie, and you can feel it. And, you know, another thing we haven't mentioned is that scene on the road.
Yeah.
Near the end of the movie.
Yeah.
One of the best visual moments of 2025.
Yeah.
Like, legitimately, like, felt almost sick to my stomach with the way the camera was moving. And I say that in a complimentary way. And it forces you to lean forward. It forces you to be engaged in the slowest chase of 2025. And yet you're just like, okay. And you're kind of waiting for something horrible to happen. And you're just like, when is the moment where things change? And then when it does flip, everything goes to 11. And it just, that last sequence with, Leo trying to get to his daughter and, all the stuff with the Christmas adventurers and everything that goes into that. Wow. Like, this movie really, really works. And another movie, it's like 3 hours long and feels like it's about 100 minutes. Like, I'm just like, it just moves. Really, really great movie. That's my number 3 of the year.
Awesome stuff. Yeah.
Great movie. Very great movie. It's my number 17.
All right.
I feel bad saying that. I really do. I'm not ready to play the masterpiece card with this movie just yet, but I do really quite love it. And what I love most about it is, all of PTA's movies, I like to call them quote unquote not really movies, because they tend to market themselves as some type of like central conceit, but then they're about something else that's much deeper than that. Like
100% accurate.
Like There'll Be Blood is not the oil business movie, but it's more than that. The Master is not really a Scientology movie, and One Battle After Another is not really a revolutionary movie. And I actually have a lot of respect for PTA for tackling a movie that's about those things in some way, but he makes a movie that's pro-revolution without being pro-violence at the same time, which I think is a really tricky thing to pull off. It's a movie that says less about America and more about Americans and the people that inhabit this place, which I think is really quite great.
Dad-daughter movie too.
It's a great dad-daughter movie, so maybe I'll probably think this is the greatest movie ever made. In
just
about a
thinking
year's
that,
time.
yeah.
I think that's a lot of the heart of the film too.
I think so. I think part of the reason why I'm not ready to play the masterpiece card yet is because, to your point, Dave, there are moments where like it seems like PTA is about to lose control and then regains control.
Sure.
Sometimes I do sense where he's that loss of control. Maybe I sense it a little bit more than you do, and sometimes that's maybe my one reservation about the film at this point right now. But one of the more provocative aspects of the movie, and I'll say this and then we can move on, that relationship between Teyana Taylor and Sean Penn, at least how it opens up the movie and how the first third really plays out.
Pretty normal stuff,
Very normal stuff, right? Like it's very hard stuff. But like the
here we go again with you
like,
two.
No, I had to because like in a way I feel like maybe PTA is suggesting that we as people kind of get off on political extremism nowadays, and like in a way that like we're kind of fueled by the divisiveness that this country fosters now. And I don't know if that's his intent, but it almost comes off that way, which
it's a bit prickly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like that he might be suggesting that we're at a point now that we almost can't survive without this kind of discourse. And that's maybe the scariest thing about the movie for me. And that's the thing that really had me thinking a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Good stuff. All right. My number 3, I am going with Ryan Coogler. This is where I have Sinners is at number 3 here. So like Dave, I feel like the top 3, and I guess I can include my top 4 in that as well, because I think all 4 of these films are masterpieces in their own way. I very much feel that way about Sinners. I was completely blown away by this film. Its ambition, the way it blends genres, the craft on display, the performances. I just think it's all utterly masterful. It's thematically rich and dense. These characters in every way are wholly captivating. as I mentioned in part one, this is the very rare breed of movie that is perfectly imperfect. It is a messy masterpiece, similarly to what you guys were just talking about there with One Battle. And I wouldn't have it any other way. What Ryan Coogler does here is nothing short of stunning. It's sexy. It is seductive as this Southern Gothic vampire movie, but it's also this soulful and exquisite music movie illuminating the deep connection of blues to the Black community, with Coogler somehow fusing those genres together seamlessly. But what's even more astounding is how those varying aesthetics and styles work congruently to examine the Black diasporic experience, assimilation and passing, and the looting of Black musicianship. It cannot be overstated. The use of Irish colonization to symbolically tap into those ideas is nothing short of brilliant. Historically, there are many similarities between the Irish and Black people. Both groups were victims of systemic oppression. However, rather than uniting over their shared experiences, many Irish Americans recognized assimilation as an effective solution in the exact same way that Remick sees vampirism as a means of escape. And that is phenomenal, how this film plays out using that. Not to mention how this film includes the deep ties to East Asians and the Black community in the Delta, superstitions and myth that live in the bayou, and even what Native American vampire hunters mean as far as their role in all of this. There is so much to unpack. It is a rich, dense movie that is all wrapped up in a messy vampire movie that is utterly badass. This is maybe the greatest example of the power of execution, because from moment to moment, this film's execution is pristine. Every scene is engrossing and evocative. It has the scene of the year, the I Lied to You sequence, as we've talked about the last couple of weeks. It might even be one of the best scenes of the decade. It is incredibly innovative. The screenplay here, I think, is really great. The score to this film was a nominee for me. I think, Dave, you had it as your favorite score of the year, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
Again, another one of those ensemble pieces that should be up for best casting. Just everything about this film, I think, is brilliant. The music, the imagery here, the performances, it's just one hell of an experience. I deeply, deeply love this film a lot. It is my number 3.
Yeah, I love it as well. It's my number 14. And the reason why it's not quite in my top 10, it's probably for the exact same reasons as to why I didn't quite have one battle after another in there. And that's, there are moments when Ryan Coogler here also kind of loses a little bit of control. And I need to see the movie again to see if I'm more interested in the stuff that really does work. Like I think about, let's say, the final action set piece of Sinners. When I first saw the movie, I thought that was a little sloppily handled. That was really my biggest reservation about it. But aside, like when it functions as kind of an action movie at times, I don't think it's quite as strong as the other moments in between. But those other moments in between they're almost too good that when I give this movie a second go, I'm probably going to be willing to overlook some of those things. But at the same time, we often talk about this, right, JD, that a director that is willing to go out of their way to trip over their ambitions and make something that is perfectly imperfect, that should be valued. And it's honestly amazing that a movie like this got pushed as hard as it was for such a theatrical window and did so well, and audiences responded to it. Like, if anything, even if it's not in my top 10, I think it might be the best success story of 2025.
Perfect time to talk about Sinners, because it is my number 2 this year.
Alrighty.
I mostly agree with everything that you said, except for the parts where you said that it was messy and that the action didn't work. I disagree with that.
I didn't say that. Brendan said that.
He's talking to me. He's talking to me.
This is a 5-star movie. This is incredible. This is the best directed movie of the year. And it's not particularly close. It's got a kind of meta thing going on, that it is about Black ownership of art. Yeah. And it is Black ownership of art, with Ryan Coogler heading this, writing this, directing this, producing this. being the figurehead for the entire thing.
Yeah.
I think, and I mentioned yesterday, I think that Michael B. Jordan gives a tremendous double performance here. It's fun, it's moving, it's cool. It's like 4 different movies in one. The first part is like historical fiction. Like we're gonna introduce you to this town and what it might have looked like back then, and we're gonna build it. It's a musical. It is a really good vampire movie. It's a romance. It is all of these things. And the way that Coogler manages to blend all these styles and genre, I'm in awe of this movie. Any other year, this would probably be my number one. But I think this is incredible. It's also got, not just Michael B. Jordan, Wunmi Mosaku, Jamie Lawson, Miles Caton. Like, this is a stunning, stacked cast. A cast that maybe people were not familiar with before this, because a lot of the folks in this movie were much bigger on television than in film. Sure. And that's not even mentioning Delroy Lindo, a thoroughly underappreciated actor throughout his entire career, except maybe by Spike Lee. Spike Lee was really the only one who understood the level of talent that Delroy has, and it was wonderful to see him in a really juicy role here. And he's had that with Spike before, but now he's got it with Ryan Coogler. And I think in many ways, he's kind of the heart of this movie. He shows that even when your life goes sideways, that you can come back from it, and you have wisdom to give. I just think this movie is wonderful and creative and beautiful. And it's one of those movies that I feel really lucky that I'm living during a time where I got to see this movie. It is a movie that I keep coming back to this year. It's a movie I saw twice in the theaters and told everyone in my life, you must go see this movie, and really, really incredible stuff. And basically 201, everyone was like, at a minimum, this is a really good movie. And most people were like, that was amazing. That was not what I expected at all. And I love when my faith in a director like Ryan Coogler comes back to pay these dividends, because he's a Bay Area guy. Yeah, that's where I'm from. So every time I hear him talk, I get homesick, because I don't know how to describe it to people not from the Bay Area. But if you listen to Coogler talk, that's how everyone talks in the Bay. It's his cadence, it's everything about it. And so, watching his career from the very beginning, from Fruitvale Station on, it's been really rewarding to see him not only continue to make great movies, but he's expanded what he can do. And this is the ultimate expression of who he is as a director. And it was just, I do wonder, where do you go from Sinners? I don't know what you do next, but I'm excited to see whatever it is. I will be there day one.
I hope it's a musical at this point.
Yeah, I would be fine with that.
Might be.
Yeah. Bring Ludwig along and, let's get it done.
And that's like this is really just a great music movie. And I want to comment on that once again, because we get a lot of movies about music in some ways, but blues music especially is not really represented all that often, especially classic blues music. I mean, right down to the ending cameo featuring Buddy Guy, the music of Muddy Waters, excuse me, or B.B. King, these classic greats, Louis Johnson. We rarely see any form of medium really go back that far, right? Yep. And I respect that a movie is willing to kind of educate us on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's such a good movie that one of its best music moments isn't even blues related. It's unbelievable how good this movie is.
Yeah.
And I'll reiterate, because I don't think I mentioned it, but Ryan Coogler, also my winner for Best Director of the Year. I absolutely love what he does here.
Yeah, Ludwig Göransson, pretty good, guys. Not bad. And also, shout out to Miles Caton, who took 3.5 months to learn how to play the guitar for this movie. That's insane.
And convinces you he's some type of prodigy.
Yeah, exactly. And you believe it. Do you know how crazy that is? You could give me 30 years, and I would not be at that level. 3.5 months? Yeah, get out of my face! You got to be kidding me.
And I say this as the musician of the three of us. It's just stupid. It's mean that he's able to pull that off.
I know.
Seriously.
It's so good.
Yeah,
And then
really,
to
really
sing
good.
that song the way he does,
Oh my God.
and
it's like-
moment of the year.
And that's the impressive thing is everything leads to that song. So it has to be amazing. It has to be perfect. And the
Yeah.
fact that they pulled that off, like it's literally a song that is supposed to, open up the universe for
Mhm.
essentially time travel and vampires and everything else.
Yeah.
And you watch it and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
hear
just-
it.
You just believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I mean, I might have given him best director just for that scene alone, let alone the rest of the movie.
Deserved.
I was
Yeah.
totally blown away. I mean, easily my favorite scene of the year.
Yeah,
Yes.
the
And a
second
year full
that
of great
someone,
scenes.
the second someone shows up with that electric guitar, looking like they're part of Parliament Funkadelic, it's like, oh yeah, this is my jam. This is my
Incredible.
jam.
I want to know how he
So
came up with that
gutsy.
idea
So
and then
gutsy.
decided to pull. Oh my god!
Do you know how easy it would be for that to go sideways? It should not work. That scene
Yeah.
should not work. There's no way it should work. Like you guys
Yeah.
say, it is stupid that works.
Well,
Because
and it-
on paper, I'd be like, you know what? Maybe Ryan, let's not.
Well,
Like,
and
That's why
to-
I wanted to know what it was like when he pitched that. Like we're
Right.
gonna have a scene. It's gonna be time travel. There's gonna be dancers from the future and a DJ and a rapper and all this stuff. And you're like, what?
insane. Absolutely insane.
and yet still very efficiently conveys that it's not meant to be taken 100% literally. Like it's
Yeah.
not fully in the world of this particular
And without
moment.
holding your hand and saying,
Yeah.
okay, guys, this isn't
Yeah.
real. This is
Yeah.
a moment. Like it's just that we're just going to show it to you. And it's something I love about Kugler is that he trusts his audience and he trusts the work. And he's just going to be like, I'm
Yeah.
going to show you and you're going to get it. And we did.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I do.
Unbelievable.
I told JD this. I do have an individual in my life that did take that scene literally, and I had to correct them. Keep in mind, this individual's favorite movie is probably something like Grandma's Boy. So just go.
All
figure.
right. Well, funny movie. I'm not mad at Grandma's Boy. It's funny. Wouldn't be in my top 10 or anything, but
Yeah, I kind of like Grandma's Boy as well. I think it's pretty funny.
Anyway, Brendan, you're number 2.
I don't have much more to say about Marty Supreme. I feel like you guys kind of beat a dead horse with this one, but it is my number 2. And honestly, I'm surprised I only have it at number 2 because when we reviewed it with Jay Ledbetter from Awards Watch,
Yeah.
I did say I think this might be the best movie of the year, and I think it is because it is the overall package. Of
No,
all
you
the movies
definitely
I've seen.
said adamantly, this is the best movie of the year.
Yeah,
Because I
can't
put that
trust
up
this
on
guy.
TikTok and there were people that were like, wait.
week
It's
to
good,
week,
but-
cannot trust that guy. Good Lord.
well, I'll let those TikTokers respond and hate as much as they want, but they're still wrong.
Yeah.
But I do. I would probably still stand by calling this maybe the best movie of the year, even though I have it at number 2, because I do think it is the overall package of a movie. Like I think it's the most fully complete and most fully realized movie that I think I saw this year for all the reasons that both of you already talked about. I think it's just so well crafted and so well performed and so well scored. All those components come together, and why it responded to me so much is this is essentially a coming of age tale. And I was actually weirdly reminded of a movie like The Worst Person in the World from Joachim Trier some years ago. And I'm kind of loving this new era of coming of age films that are more about people coming of age much later in life and not just as children, because in many ways Marty himself is a man-child and he gets treated as a child by Kevin O'Leary in one scene with a literal spanking. And that is, as funny as that scene is, I think it is it's actually very metaphorical.
I think it's very important to that film.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is, because it's meant to sort of start this humbling arc of Marty, but also show us as an audience that other people actually do see him as a bit of a man baby in a way. And he has to realize that he is ultimately a man child that is growing up in his 20s. That is what this movie is. That is why I think the ending is wholly earned. Especially given the great match that he has with Endo, and the fact that they utilize his real life disability in a way that's very symbolic. The fact that as someone who can't hear the constant badgering of Marty himself, it never phases him. I love that. I love that he is completely, literally disconnected from Marty and his verbal sparring that he is so accustomed to. And it's in that scene where you sense some genuine humbleness coming from him for the first time. And when he says to Endo, "You're a great player. I hope you win," I found that to be a very sincere gesture. And I think it's meant to be seen as a very sincere gesture. I like when people have different readings of certain things, but I think if you read that as arrogance, I genuinely think you're misreading the movie. Like, I really do think that is intentional about being a sincere moment of a man sort of realizing that he is now battling against the thing that he was always chasing, which is some like capitalistic mentality. And I just love that you cast someone like Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank to also represent that just in a very meta way. Some of his recent interviews talking about the experience making this, he wants to keep acting now because of this experience, but he said he had to take a step back because he is so used to telling people what to do.
Sure.
And he had to get used to someone like Josh Safdie saying like, no, we're still shooting this scene. Shut the hell up. We're still working here. And
right.
So in a way, this is maybe kind of meta that Kevin O'Leary himself has to bring on this more humble exterior that Marty is also experiencing. So I love all the layers of this movie, and I think it does build to a beautiful ending, as you guys already talked about. So nothing more to add. I love this film.
I'm glad you brought up that Endo sequence too, because I truly think that's the best moment in the entire film.
I agree.
It's an interesting movie because it's so frenetic and it happens so quickly, as everything does. It's easy to miss if you're not paying attention, if you're not fully engaged with it. Just him saying you're a great player is like, he is actually coming of age right now. He would, like 30 minutes ago in this movie, he would not have said that.
Yeah.
And it's like he needed that growth. And then that leads to, of course, the end, which is really important.
And to be fair with how his arc concludes, I think if anyone is arguing that he is not redeemed by the end, I actually don't disagree with that. I think if anything, he is showing the signs that he is ready to fight for that redemption.
Yeah.
Like
there's actually move forward. Yeah.
Because like Marty does a lot of despicable things that are to some very irredeemable. And I certainly don't disagree with that. But the whole point is that he is now making an effort to recognize that. And that is the first step to that kind of growth.
Yeah. I don't want to be Marty's friend. I don't.
Even at the end, I still don't.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. And I think you make a great point, Dave. And that's exactly what I was going to say, in the sense that the Marty that we saw throughout the film, the one that is full of brazen confidence and ego, would never in a million years tell Endo that he's great.
No.
Would never do that. In fact, one of the film's most controversial moments comes when he calls out another opponent, and it's this incredibly inappropriate Holocaust joke. That's the Marty that we all despise. And that's the Marty that we see throughout most of the movie. That is not the Marty that would tell Endo that he's great.
Totally.
Well,
the Marty earlier in the film would have probably had a horrible Japanese World War II joke.
Seriously.
That's what we would have heard out of Marty's mouth. But instead, he shows sincere reverence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's absolutely a huge change.
That's why that Holocaust joke earlier on in the film is very heavily visualized for us. So then that juxtaposition is made even clearer by the time we reach that end point in the film. The film has all of these very sometimes cryptic, but I think very clear juxtapositions in how Marty responds to certain things. The other example being how he constantly tells, I'm blanking on his girlfriend's name in this, the character name, but is it Rachel? Is that her name?
I think so.
Yeah. But obviously she is Rachel, played by Odessa Azion. She is pregnant, and he constantly says to her, "No, it's not mine. It's not mine." Yeah. What is the first thing he says when he gets to the hospital? "I'm the father." It's very clear and intentional about those things.
I agree. Great movie. Awesome movie.
I agree.
I do really like it a lot. All right, my number 2. This is a film that probably, in all honesty, is the surprise movie of the year for me, because it's something that I probably would have liked, and it's coming from a filmmaker I do really appreciate. I did not expect to be blown away by this film the way that I was. I am, of course, talking about Danny Boyle's 28 Years Later. Mm-hmm. This is far and away his best movie. It's not even close as far as I am concerned. I absolutely love it. I think it is a masterpiece. It is everything that you'd want out of a Danny Boyle film aesthetically speaking. I think visually it's audacious, it's weird, it's gross, it's evocative and beautiful. The kaleidoscopic vistas rendered by the iPhone rigs are incredible. The nighttime alpha chase sequence is breathtaking in its ethereal thrills. And my goodness, the gnarly yet beautiful vestige at the end of the film is extraordinary. The action sequences with Jamie and Spike in the opening act of the film are enthralling. The pregnant zombie sequence, I think, is assiduously and gorgeously crafted. The artistry and the craftsmanship on display here is sublime. It is Danny Boyle's best directed film to date. I had him listed as a best director nom for that reason. But I also think it's his most emotionally arresting and thematically compelling as well. We also talked about this in part one, but the juxtaposition of Spike going into the woods early on in the film to become a man by killing his first zombie is in direct contrast to Spike taking direct action himself to save his mother when no one else cared to do anything. And I love what the film suggests, that Spike's coming of age isn't in traditional masculinity or in how well he shoots a bow, but rather it's his willingness to be vulnerable and doing whatever it takes to save your family. That idea is why the Ray Fiennes sequences at the end are so emotionally arresting, because it's not about Spike wrestling with grief as much as it's about remembrance and embracing the grieving process. How Boyle goes about depicting that in this film is something I've never really seen before, and it's something I will soon not forget. I love what this film is doing as a deconstruction of not just this franchise, but the zombie movie at large, while also being a subtle rebuke of nationalism. I absolutely love it. And some of the imagery here, it sticks with me. It really sticks with me. Very, very moving. One of the best screenplays of the year, as we talked about in part one as well. This was my winner for best adapted screenplay. The cinematography, I have no idea how the cinematography for this film is not in awards contention.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I agree with you.
Unreal.
Yeah.
I love this cast. Jodie Comer, I think, gives one of the best performances of the year as well. Alfie Williams is incredible as Spike. I love Ray Fiennes in this as well. I liked this franchise. I don't know if I would have walked into the year going, yeah, this is one of my favorite franchises, even though I really love that first film from Garland and Boyle quite a bit. But this just took the franchise to a whole new level. And I've never really seen a zombie movie act the way this one does. And again, I love how weird and grotesque and beautiful it is. This is my number 2.
And that's why it's my number 1.
Yeah, I kind of wondered.
Should not have been a surprise for both of you guys, given how much I've talked about it already. And I agree with everything that you said, JD, as to why it's also my number 1 here. I never really considered Danny Boyle to be one of my guys necessarily. This movie made me rethink that. And I do agree. I think this might be my favorite movie of his. I think he should only direct movies that have the number 2 in the title. Between this, 28 Days Later, 127 Hours, I also really like. I'm going to also say I think I like T2 Trainspotting more than its predecessor by a slight margin. So just put the 2 in there.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah. I love a lot of what you're saying there, JD, as far as how it deconstructs a lot of the trappings that we tend to see in movies like this, genre movies like this, and makes for what is essentially a beautiful film about the beauty and death. And I love the irony in that it uses a world where people are desperately trying to stay alive and avoid death, to the point that they have essentially forgotten what death ultimately means and what it means to say goodbye. And it's very rare that we see a movie that showcases death in a way that's not only about something traumatic or devastating. Like, sometimes there could be beauty in the remembrance of that. And I think utilizing that to make a movie that essentially feels like a biblical tale about isolationism. I think really has a lot of beautiful things to say about those things and utilizing it in a way that I really haven't seen in a genre film like this, to your point, JD. So I will agree with you. I think this is a beautiful film. And like I said, I think Marty Supreme is probably the overall package of a film, which is why I called it the quote unquote best for me. But this is the one that moved me the most. And the one I kept going back to as this is my favorite. This is my favorite of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. I keep going back to it as well. And I think I noted this to you last week. I don't know if I shared this on air, but I went to watch the clips for this as we were trying to figure out our best scenes of the year. And I made a huge mistake of doing this at work. And, oh boy. Yeah. This film quite provokes me for sure. I'm totally with you there.
Yeah. It's pretty good. Pretty good movie. That's where I sit on it. I liked it. I clearly not on the level that the two of you did. I think it's the second best of the series. I'm still a 28 days guy.
Thankfully you didn't say 28 weeks.
No, come on. I'm not a monster. Like, but I will say that, it does have some of the most memorable scenes visually of the year. Like you talked about the cinematography already, and it's a stunning movie to look at. And that chase sequence across the kind of land bridge, like really incredible stuff.
Thrilling.
Like really absolutely thrilling. Yes. Didn't get to me emotionally like it did the two of you, but a much better movie.
We've already established you're dead inside. So
look, I have standards. I talked like 4 times in this about how I cried at movies this year. Just not the movie you cried at. So sorry. But yeah, it's a better movie than I expected it to be. When I heard this movie was coming out, I was kind of like, oh, really? We're going back to the well, huh? Okay, sure. I mean, and I walked in thinking like, I'll probably like this, but it was better than I expected it to be. And there's some really good stuff in there. It doesn't quite all come together for me, but good movie overall.
Okie dokie. Well, what do you have at number 1, Dave?
Come on. What are we talking about? What are we talking about?
We're just talking about 28 years later.
No, forget that movie. About. We're done with that.
We're talking about another movie that finds beauty in the grotesqueness.
That's right. Surprising
zombies to vampires.
Surprising literally no one. My favorite movie of the year is Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. Absolutely fantastic. I know that this is a controversial opinion. I guess there's a lot of like, it's fine, it's okay. It doesn't really do it for me. It does it for me. This is a 5-star movie. I talked earlier about GDT. He has been, of course, in love with the grotesque and the monstrous his whole life. And certainly his whole filmmaking career. And he has been making versions of Frankenstein forever.
Yeah.
So this was his first real opportunity to make his actual version of Frankenstein. And when I say that, I mean that. This is GDT's Frankenstein. He's talked a lot about how this movie is about fathers and sons, and this movie is about ending the cycle of trauma and violence. It is no surprise that Victor's father is physically abusive, just as he is to his own creation. And if you can't see the monster as a son, like, come on, it's right there. It's text. It's barely subtext. Elordi is phenomenal. One of the best performances of the year. He's so fantastic. I thought he was a decent actor before seeing this, and I'm completely turned around on him. Like, I never thought he was bad. I'd seen him in things, and I'm like, yeah, he's solid. He's got some promise. He's very good looking. He's got that going for him. But this is different. Like, really, like one of those things where, like, you were born to play this role. Like, this is what you were meant to do. And I'm so glad it timed out that way. And, there's been a lot of complaints about Oscar Isaac's performance. And I think there's a kind of misunderstanding of what this movie was going for. The first section is very clearly telenovela stuff. It is supposed to be over the top. It's supposed to be hyper dramatic. It's not supposed to be subtle in any way. GDT has never been interested in subtlety. I don't know why people thought he would start with goddamn Frankenstein. This is like, what are we talking about? Like, of course it's not going to be subtle. So I can understand people saying the first part doesn't work as well as the second part. I can even agree with that. But I think there's so much there that you need in the first part to make all the stuff in the second section really work. And actually, I very much enjoyed, even though we disagree in some ways on this movie, I very much enjoyed your episode on it. And it actually made me love it more. And this is the great thing about movies, right? Is that someone can talk about things they didn't like. And I can be like, yeah, that is all true. And I still think you're wrong somehow.
I love how when that happens. No, I seriously love when that happens, when it's able to reinforce something that you feel about it in a way. Like,
absolutely.
Strengthen that.
Yeah. And not only reinforce it, but like give me more to chew on. Like Brendan, I think you were the one who kind of talked about his body being created out of violence, out of war, of death. And that makes his turn into being or trying to be a good person all the more impactful. And I love this idea of like, sometimes even though you try as hard as you can to be a good person, to be peaceful, to connect, sometimes life forces you into violence. And like, people chasing him and attacking him. And just like from a visual perspective, like this movie is beautiful. Like I heard people, and you mentioned this on your show as well, people talk about the Netflix sheen, and it makes me want to hit them with rocks. Because like, I don't know what movie you watched. I watched this in a theater and I watched it at home. I did not see any of that. This looks like, this is a beautiful looking movie, and GDT knows exactly what he's doing. There are moments in this movie that there are characters that people don't really like in this movie, like the Christoph Waltz character. I love that character is here because it closes a loop on a gigantic loophole in the story, which is, where in the hell does he get all the money to build this stuff? Like these giant columns and this huge castle. And I love the fact that Guillermo was like, okay, we got to figure out a way around this, because I don't want people going like, whoa, how did he get this and this and that? And he's like, here you go. Here's the fix. And actually, I'm not the biggest Mia Goth fan. I really like her in this, in a dual role. I think she's quite good. Even though it's not as if she's given a great deal to do. She is symbolic more than anything else, but I think she understands that as a performer. The costumes are amazing. The effects are amazing. The makeup. Oh my God. This is a movie that is going to stick with me for a long, long, long time, because this is like, in many ways, like I don't want him to, I want to make this clear, but I wouldn't even be mad if this was Guillermo's last film. It feels like the culmination of something. It feels like something.
It kind of does. Yeah. Kind of feels like a swan song in a way.
Yeah. So he's kind of talked about like, he might be done making movies about lovable monsters, because it's like, I made Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. This is the movie I've been trying to make since I was a kid. Like, this is what I've been wanting to do forever. And I love that he got to do it. And the way that this movie opens with that giant ship and working on the gimbal, like that stuff all really works. Yes, there are moments where there's some dodgy CGI, but if I'm going to sit here and like pick apart movies for CGI, I'm going to lose a lot of joy. Because
you're also going to be criticizing every movie ever made going
that's
forward.
Right. That's exactly right. And part of this, part of going to the cinema, part of watching movies is a little bit of shutting that part of your brain off and just diving in to what the director and what the cast is giving to you. And it's like, oh, that doesn't look exactly like a wolf should look. Man, I could not give less of a you-know-what if that's what a wolf should look like. I can go into this movie and shut that part enough to be like, that's a wolf and that's a dangerous creature. And I understand why Frankenstein's creature is doing what he's doing. Good enough for me. And I'm so involved in that character and that character's journey. Just the sequence where he is, befriends the old man and is learning to read. I was tremendously moved by that. Like, all it takes is someone who is willing to sit with you and willing to care about you. And that can make all the difference. And that's all he ever wanted from his father figure. But let's be real, his father, Victor, is absolutely his dad. And all his dad does is yell at him and beat him and tell him he's not good enough. And if you've ever had a parent tell you you're not good enough, or a parental figure or someone you look up to tell you what you are is wrong, what you are is not good enough. You could very easily make this a queer symbol, a queer ideology here, where it's like, I don't accept what you are. I don't accept who you are. And that is
it's
so
very open in
hurtful.
that way. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love this movie. Like, I bought the shirt, ready to go. I hope that we get a physical media release for this. GDT has said there is going to be one, so I am keeping my fingers crossed. That's going to be another day one purchase for me.
I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being a Criterion release, which I feel like they've
From
been doing
your lips to God's ears, my friend. Yes, please.
I say, like, I don't even just say that as wish fulfillment. I wouldn't be surprised, just given his last few releases being Criterion.
And there's already a box set with his stuff. And yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
please.
I'm looking at each of our lists because I'm taking notes as we go, so we have a record of it. I do love that we finally had a pick here that is probably the most movie out of all of these ones.
It's a lot of movie. This is
a lot of movie. And I love that we finally have one that really is like a movie.
It's a Del Toro movie, so hell yeah. Love a good Frankenstein. I do really like Del Toro a lot. Good movie. I don't have to spend a ton of time here because we have talked about this film already, but my number one for the year is Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another. A complete masterpiece and the movie of the year. I was pretty blown away by this film, how vast and wide-ranging it is. It is provocative yet timely in its examination of revolution and parenthood and white supremacy. But at the same time, it's also this stoner comedy where Leonardo DiCaprio can't remember passcodes. He falls 40 feet from a rooftop. He jumps out of a moving vehicle and is the world's worst sniper.
The
PTA.
The only thing missing is a rug that ties the room together.
That fall, I forgot about that until you brought it up. That's so good.
It's so good.
What a great
PTA
stunt.
He's always been an audacious filmmaker, but the tonal and narrative swings in this film are as enthralling as anything he's ever done. The opening and closing sequences here are intense. They are pulsating heart stoppers. The final sequence on the road with the use of those long lenses, one of the best scenes of the year, one of Paul Thomas Anderson's best scenes. But at the same time, this is maybe his funniest film to date. It is absolutely hysterical. Leo on the phone will never not be hilarious. Love that gif every single time I see it. Always gets a laugh out of me. It's also his most politically overt to date as well. But what I love about this film is that it's political without having to constantly revel in black and white politics. It's simply a reflection of the fallacy of political extremes and the devastating consequences that come about when those extremes collide, which I think is extremely effective in this film because there's a lot more showing than there is telling. And again, that's the brilliance of him as a director. There is a lot going on here, but I do think he has control of this at every single turn. And I do love, again, not just the narrative precision, but the tonal precision and all of that. It is surgical and it is incredible. On one hand, you might have something that is urgent, and then in the next moment, we are introduced to the Christmas Adventurers Club. An incredible gag in this film. It is unbelievable. Or sometimes it's simultaneous when Leo is meeting up with Benicio del Toro's character and they're trying to escape the riot on the streets. There is an urgency to that moment, but he's also trying to plug his phone in to get a charge. And it's just incredible. Just incredible how all of that works. I do think this is as smart and as nuanced as it is politically. I think it's equally as sophisticated as a stoner comedy. At every turn, both of those things are working congruently. Then there's the score to this film, which I think is excellent. And the performances to this film, again, it cannot echo the ensemble cast here, how wonderful It is. I did not have Sean Penn listed as a nominee for me for Best Supporting Actor, but I do think the physicality he brings to this film, the over the top, almost caricature like rhythms of that character are great. I think he really takes those choices and runs with them. Like, does not back down at all, and they're really, really fun to watch. And you could honestly say the same thing about Leo. Like, he's making some incredible choices in this film as well.
So good.
And Chase Infinity, just incredible. And no one that we had ever heard of before comes into this film and gives an enthralling performance like that. It's incredible. I deeply love everything about this film. It is the movie of the year for me. Another masterpiece from Paul Thomas Anderson. And
Good stuff.
Honestly, the more I think about it, and I know I might regret this tomorrow, but it might be my favorite PTA the more I sit on this. I just cannot stop thinking about it. Yeah, I know. I mean, again, that could change in another 5 minutes.
And whichever the one you watched last is usually maybe that one's the best. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, for me, it's probably always going to be Phantom Thread. Like, that's very very excellent, but like I can't argue with that. Like, this is
I have great. I have that relationship with him too. Pretty much the last one I watch usually ends up being my favorite. I've had that moment with The Master. That's what it currently is for me. Sometimes There'll Be Blood, sometimes Magnolia. The only of his films that I never say is my favorite is Boogie Nights or Heartache. Those are the only two that I've never actually said that about. But the majority of it, like even Punch Drunk Love was a favorite of mine at one point.
I mean, Boogie Nights might be the best version of Scorsese that's not Scorsese.
I think it's too Scorsese.
I agree. Yeah. He's very much got the mask on in that.
But I'm glad he made it, because then it allowed him to make everything else afterwards. Sometimes you need a great riff to be able to find your own voice eventually.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And look, The Master could still be my favorite PTA, but I say that to say that One Battle is very much in that conversation. And again, I love how wide ranging this film is and everything that it has to offer, and it just endlessly rewatchable. And again, just to echo, the road scene is one of the best scenes of the year as well, and how that ends. I mean, the way it goes up and down as the cars are going is one thing, but I love that moment of Chase Infinity there with the gun out and the pause, even though she knows it's her father, she sees that it's her father, but there's that moment where she still asks for the code.
I mean, she learned the lesson she was supposed to learn.
Learn the lesson.
She didn't smoke so much pot that she forgot it yet. So,
And that's the brilliance of the screenplay, and that inclusion of Leo not remembering the passcodes. Because you get to that moment and you're like, is he going to remember the passcode?
One of my favorite moments in the whole movie, there's during the passcode sequence, someone's asking him, he's saying, what time is it? And Benicio answers him. Like, it's just, he just tells him what time it is right now. It's such a small little moment, but like PTA's comedy is on point in this movie. Like,
so funny,
man. So good.
Yeah. So silly, but incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yep.
Yeah, I really love this film. It is my number one movie of 2025, and hopefully the film that does win Best Picture. I don't think this film will have the arrows out for it like I think Hamnet would. This one winning Best Picture, I think, will be okay.
I think it's kind of the clear front runner.
Yeah, I mean, a white guy directed it, so it'll be okay. It's fine. That's what we like.
That's true.
That's what Hollywood loves.
It'll be fine. Yeah. All right. We're going long here, so quickly we're going to do some honorable mentions. We're going to reveal our 11 through 20. So, Dave, what do you have as your 11 through 20?
All right. So my number 11 is No Other Choice. My number 12 is Die My Love. My number 13 is Resurrection. Number 14 is If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. Number 15 is Begonia. Number 16 is The Shrouds. Number 17 is Black Bag. 18 is The Mastermind. 19 is Highest to Lowest. And 20 is Weapons.
Okay. Brendan?
All right. Number 11, I have the animated film Little Amelie or The Character of Rain. Number 12, and many of these I've already mentioned already, so this will be quick. But number 12, It Was Just an Accident. Number 13, The Mastermind. Number 14, Sinners. Number 15, Twinless. Number 16, Rebuilding. Number 17, One Battle After Another. Number 18, The Naked Gun. Number 19, The Baltimoreans. And number 20, Hamnet.
All right. At number 11 for me is Sorry Baby. At number 12, Die, My Love. At number 13, No Other Choice. At number 14, the German film Sound of Falling. At 15, I have Ephus. At 16, I also have The Shrouds.
Nice.
At 17, Kristen Stewart's The Chronology of Water. At 18, I mentioned earlier, is Train Dreams. At 19 is The Secret Agent. And number 20, On Becoming a Guinea Fowl. So that's our top 20 as it is on January 12th, 2026. If you ask us tomorrow, this list could look differently.
I was just going to say, I was about to say what our consensus is because I have the mathematical formula going here. Our top 5 between the three of us. Number 5, just given the weights of all of this. Number 5, 28 years later, just given how high JD and I have it. That outweighs Dave. I'm sorry, Dave. Number 4, One Battle After Another. Number 3, Sentimental Value. Number 2, Sinners. And number 1, Marty Supreme.
There you go. All right.
It's not a bad top 5.
The collective top 5 there.
Yeah.
Well, that'll do it. That is the 2025 InSession Film Awards. That is our top 10 of the year. Thanks to everyone for listening all the way through. If you have decided to listen all the way through, we really do appreciate it.
Oh, man. This is a workout. Just sitting here is a
Dave and
workout,
Brendan.
man.
I know. Fun as always. It was a great year for film, at least if you ask us. We really enjoyed it a lot. Those were our favorite movies of the year. And now we turn the page to 2026, which is what we will be doing on next week's show.
Indeed.
But with all of that, that will do it for our 2025 campaign. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for watching. We will see you all next time on the InSession Film Podcast. Movies are good.